Hey,
Hey.
what's going on, brother? Arian Rogers, what's up with that?
New nickname.
New nickname? Okay.
Yep, trying out.
No more Longo, or?
No, I'm just trolling.
Oh, okay. My handle before used to be Arian Analog.
Really?
That's funny. Yeah.
Huh.
I used to post with that. It changed it just because too many. It's such a trigger word for people,
Oh yeah. It's the
Yeah.
It's the spiciest.
Yeah, for sure. How's my volume and everything?
You sound good. How do I sound?
You sound good.
You sure?
Yeah. You're a little quiet. You make sure you're using the right microphone this time.
Yep. I
Good.
am.
Good. I'm excited that I thought maybe it was too short a notice, but
no, all good.
Because my free time pops up with like five minutes notice usually. So
all good. And just so you know, we're live. We're fully live.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
My eye is a little swollen right now, so sorry if I look a little droopy, but
No, you're always usually a little under the influence anyway. So
Yep.
Well, where do you want to start? You can lead us in, or do you want to do an intro, or whatever you want?
Yeah, I'll wait till we get. Oh, we're like 60 people inside.
See how fast? It's crazy,
Yeah.
dude. Your lives are going off the chain. It's pretty cool. Love it.
Yeah. So we'll run the. I think we're gonna run the Coquina Cowboys theme for a little bit. We'll just hang back for 30 seconds.
Okay.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
What's up, everybody?
Howdy. All right, guys. Today I'm joined by a favorite of the channel, Ben from Analog, Waking Up with Analog. And we're just going to be chatting tonight, starting off with Devil's Den, which is the spring in the thumbnail. That place does exist, and it's in Florida, and it's called the Devil's Den. And Ben sent me a pretty interesting article about the Devil's Den a couple days ago, or yesterday, was it? Only yesterday?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, just yesterday. That's the first I saw it was yesterday.
I posted it a while ago, but there's so many. I can't keep track of it all, and someone had retweeted it, so I was like, oh man, I don't think I've shared this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So you want to pull that one up, and we could just...
Yeah, it's ready to go if you want to share it. Oh,
sure.
I gotta click it. What am I doing? There we go. And I'll just read it if that's all right, top to bottom.
Oh, for sure.
All right, the Devil's Den, Wisconsin, 1890. So again, for those of you that haven't, that don't follow me or know exactly what I do, I mostly just post newspaper articles. I do a lot of clippings, but mostly newspapers. And I'll put the title, and I'll put the newspaper that it's from, and then the date that it was published, just so we know, because it's not in Wisconsin. This is a Florida cave. I don't always say where it's from if it's not listed in the article, but yeah, just a heads up. So yeah, the Devil's Den, Wisconsin, 1890. Florida cavern. One night, brilliantly lighted up, sound of music and revelry. They look within. 4 or 5 characters were clustered, making music on instruments unacquainted with. On the floor, naked yellow devils, 7 feet high, were dancing. queer stories told about a remarkable Florida cavern. The cave near Joseph D's in Hamilton County, Florida, known as the Devil's Den, has ever been a mystery. No one now living has ever explored its depths, and many curious tales are told in connection with it. The editor of the Jasper News has gone by it at least a half a dozen times with the express purpose of exploring it. But upon reaching its openings, deep down in a dark ravine, overshadowed by tall pines and spreading oaks, feeling the cold, chilly current of the air that is peculiar to the place, listening to the dripping waters echoing in the cavernous depths, viewing the overhanging rocks, which seem ready to give way and fall, and the impenetrable darkness of the cavern, all combined, have never failed to produce a feeling of awe that would soon ripen into fear and cause him to get away from the place faster than he went to it. It is related that in the early history of the country, old Uncle Billy Bassett once happened to pass that way at a late hour in the night. It was brilliantly lighted up, and the sound of music and revelry were heard therein. He, knowing nothing of the cave, joyfully supposed that he was approaching some house where he could obtain rest for the night. Going down into the ravine, he followed its course until, upon turning an angle of rock, he came full upon the mouth of the cavern, an opening some 12 feet high, 12 feet wide. He took one look at the scene within, and incountedly fled from the spot with the speed of a frightened deer. He said that on a high ledge of rock, 4 or 5 uncouth-looking characters were clustered, making music on instruments that he was unacquainted with, while on the floor any number of naked yellow devils 7 feet high were dancing with might and main. Ever since that, it has been called the Devil's Den. Another story in that during the war it was occupied as a refuge and hiding place for deserters. One of them one day concluded that to pass away the time which was hanging so heavily on his hands, he would explore the cave and see what it contained. Up to this time, its occupants had never gone 30 or 40 yards into it. So, procuring a good torch and accompanied by a companion, he set out, or rather in on a voyage of discovery. At a distance of 70 or 80 yards, they came across hundreds of skeletons of human beings, which so terrified them they quit the cave entirely, preferring a life in the army to an abode within the dead in that lonely cavern. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you think?
That's some crazy shit.
Yeah.
And I just want to pull it up real quick so that people can know what we're talking about. Probably should have started out with that. Can you see my screen?
Still on mine.
Sorry. Okay. Hang on. All right, there we go. So, Devil's Den, Florida. There's a couple Devil's Dens in America. This is the one in Florida. Can you see that good, Ben?
Yeah.
So this is the one. It's one of the most Instagrammed places on Earth. The Devil's Den. Pretty much every girl under the age of 35 has seen a picture of this place. People always think these waters are enhanced, like pictures of them are enhanced or altered.
Yeah, the color.
That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's the properties of the spring water itself. It has trace amounts of lime and quartz in the water itself that catch the sunlight and cast a blue translucence. It's very, very trippy. But yeah, Devil's Den. That's how it got the name. allegedly.
Yeah, I love that article. It's not the first time I've come across ones like that. Um,
Hmm.
there's another one that's eerily similar from South Africa. I know we're trying to stick to the Gulf, but yeah, it's amazing how many things like that happen in caves,
Hmm.
and um, yeah, all
You
kinds of
want?
crazy shit.
Do you have the Albanian one?
Oh no, I don't.
That's
Unfortunately,
okay. Don't
I
worry
just
about it.
shared that with you because it just stood out. Which
Yeah.
I tend to not post a lot of the stuff I share with you privately.
Well, that one made me think of Missouri. And there's this one spot in Missouri. Um, what's the spot in Missouri called? Blue Spring?
Big spring.
Big Spring in Missouri. Big Spring, Missouri. There's a hole, and it's Florida spring water coming out of Missouri. And
Yeah.
you don't see water like that anywhere except Florida. It's glowing the same translucent turquoise. Um, it's crazy. Well, we were on our road trip and we pulled up to this place and we were just going through like Kansas, Missouri, the middle of nowhere, and there's a spring like you would not believe, and it's pumping so heavy you only see heavy magnitudes like that in Florida, typically that high of a magnitude, and it's just in the middle of Missouri, middle of
Yeah, you were
nowhere.
telling me about that cave.
Mm.
It makes you wonder. Again, we were kind of talking privately and hypothesizing, you know, why Florida is Florida, the way it's designed. Again, that's my opinion that it's designed. But
Hmm.
there's this author, I'm spacing his name, but he conjectured that the Ozarks are the oldest mountain range in the world. And the Appalachians, are right in that same ballpark.
Hmm.
And, you've talked about the Crystal Beach. What's the beach called?
Siesta Key.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
there's just so many things, the pearls, the crystals, the spring water.
Hmm.
I've been posting a lot over the years about different um, elements in relation to alchemy, and transmutation, that the whole principle of transmuting, lead to gold and blah, 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 and the allegory that is. And I
Hmm.
became fascinated with radium, which we were talking about a little bit.
Hmm. I was just going to ask you, yeah.
And radium's quite an amazing substance. When they first coined the term radium and first started experimenting with radium, it was pretty crazy the things they were doing. Again, kind of strengthening the inheritors vibe,
Hmm.
because they really had no idea what they were dealing with. The first doctors that were able to get truly purified versions of radium were like keeping it on their person, and
Yeah.
it was literally like killing them in just a few days.
Wow.
And it took people a while to realize what it was, because it's so radioactive. Like one doctor kept it in his shirt pocket, his pen pocket, and it killed him in like I think 24 hours. And this stuff is so incredibly difficult to not only find and mine, but to purify, that it
Hmm.
that it was worth unbelievable amounts of money in the late 1800s when they first started doing experiments. And yeah, before I get too off topic, I guess we could just loop it back to what we were talking about with spring water, or we can keep going with
No,
the
radium's
Devil's Den
good.
stuff. Well, yeah,
Well,
because
what did they see in the Devil's Den? They saw giants, yellow giants looking back at them, right?
right,
Is this something like that? So
yeah,
with I know you especially are theorizing about radium and longevity.
hmm
It would only seem to go hand in hand that longevity would come along with increased size potential,
Oh, 100%.
increased growth, right?
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, they were doing tests like this with plants. They were taking large iron rods with copper,
mhm,
20, 30. They were just kept increasing the size. And they were sticking these rods I think it was every 10 yards, maybe 20 yards in their fields. And
mhm.
they were just, the crops were absolutely insane. I mean, we're talking 50 to 100 to 200% increase in yield, in
Wow.
size, veracity. Everything about the crop was better. And I've told you, and you've seen the articles about the mummy wheat and the mummy corn,
Mhm.
right? These seeds that they don't even know how old they are, but some of the oldest mummies ever found in America, again, not in Europe or in Egypt, had wheat and barley and corn.
Mhm.
And they planted all of these, and the tests were insane. You saw, I mean, the corn was crazy. The corn, without doing anything special, planting
Mhm.
it the same way, same method, um, same area, was more than twice as tall, and the stalks grew twice as many ears of corn, and they lived on like half the amount of water. So
Mhm.
they were drought resistant, and they were a darker color, which makes me think of the
Well,
you
let's
know the
talk. Let's
go
talk
ahead.
about that. What is that? Because if it's not like extra food, it's not extra nutrients, it's not extra light exposure, it's extra conductivity at the end of the day.
Yeah,
It's not energy loss, where it seems like everything else on the surface of the planet today suffers from energy loss, right? Decay.
absolutely. Yeah, decay.
And
Perfect word.
and if you tap down, people are always talking about with like Antiquitech and stuff, if you put a copper wire up 100 feet, what can you pull in? Well,
Hmm.
what if you tap down 100 feet? What type of energy can you harvest that way? It would make sense. It would be more of a um, I don't know, nutritious, I guess is the best word.
Oh, for sure. The soil is always
Yeah.
better, you
Hmm.
know. And there was a gentleman who wrote a book about um, soil. And believe it or not, by the end of I think it took him like 3 4 years to write the book. And he traveled to South America, Mexico, Canada, North America, same thing, but America, Canada, all over Europe and Africa. And he found several places that had this same exact soil,
Hmm.
several from 1 foot to several feet deep. And it was the exact same composition. And basically, even though he was not at all what you would call, conspiracy theorist or anything, by the end of the book, he was basically saying that it looks like the entire globe was terraformed agriculturally because the
Hmm.
soil is man made.
Hmm.
And he also described it being very similar to places where they found ruins. He didn't really say ruins, but places like Machu Picchu and these places that had a civilization at one time, but were completely covered up, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Mud flood or tidal wave or whatever you want to say it was. It's just the ravages of time. And so he always was finding them in connection with large populaces of people. And it just makes you wonder because we've pondered the idea, especially me, of Florida and the Yucatan being man-made and other islands around the world. It's not too big of a stretch at this point for me to go along with such things. I mean, especially when we talk about the canals, the riverways, the dredging, just the dredging that they were finding in the 1800s. When again, we're talking horse and buggy, they could not dredge these rivers. They didn't even have boats big enough to float the machinery, nor was it even invented. It was mostly in Europe. So yeah, there's just a lot of questions that come from this, and um, I think a lot of the hidden aspects of that is so obviously proven through the agriculture and these stories of these gods that came from other places, right? And I've told you, and a lot of people, I think that the Sumerian handbags, that's a big popular subject. I think those were seed bags. We've talked about the Sumerian pine cone that I think it's a ear of corn, and that these, it ties in with the end of the ice age and the sailors, the mercantile race, post reset, or maybe, who knows, several resets, even traveling the world, re-educating, right, people on agriculture and bringing these things in. But yeah, before I get too far off topic, the radium thing ties right in with the Antiquitech that so many people talk about, but radium is kind of an unsung hero.
Let's rewind real quick. How do we get from spring water to radium?
You want me to give my opinion, or do you already have?
No, you. I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, so, let's just.
You had an article that.
Yeah, I'm gonna share the water one about the ocean.
Okay.
The ocean and the rivers. Let's see if I can find it. I just had so many ideas, and now, of course, I can't find them. So basically, I had an article, and I will find it here when we get back into some dialogue, and there's not idle time. But it discussed how radium is inside pitch and swampland, and these things are also found in the gas that envelops petroleum. The actual, I don't know the actual term, but the field, right, that pressurizes, because when you hit it, a pocket of petroleum, there's a bunch of gas that goes along with it, because the process of making the oil creates gas as a byproduct. And yeah, so radium exists in that gas. It's in a lot of mining rich areas, and believe it or not, the largest amount of radium ever found was in Colorado up until the mid 1900s.
Colorado.
Yeah. How interesting is that? And we'll get into that article here about the underground stuff. But essentially, they did a bunch of studies all around the world, and they found that the highest concentrations of radium existed at the equatorial ring area, in the oceans and the rivers. That essentially the rainfall washes the mountains. Everyone knows how that works. Over time, slowly you're eroding everything that's been put back there, and radium just naturally, as a filter, as a byproduct, finds its ways in the rivers and the oceans. Well, in the late 1800s, they were doing a bunch of studies on not just spring water, but these, a subject that you've covered quite a bit, these healing hotels, I guess. What were they called? Do you know those places you could go and stay, and they were?
Yeah, they were mostly hotels built next to
springs.
Yeah,
sanitariums,
resorts. They're resort and
resorts.
Sanitariums. Yeah,
right.
A lot of them went by the name sanitarium.
Yeah, and so Flagler and Rockefeller, not only are they buying up all the land with petroleum in America, but in Florida, they're buying up all the springs that they could. So again, radium is the most valuable mineral when Flagler and Rockefeller are in their height. Okay. And then the same people we talk about, Firestone's part of this, and Henry Ford, right? Because motor oil wasn't just the gasoline, but that we could go down a rabbit hole with the hemp and the alcohol and all that stuff with Ford, but we'll keep it just on the petroleum.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so you got these two heavyweights, and they're buying up everything that is related to radium, and something that was completely overlooked, at least I don't know any other researchers talking about it today, is the radium subject. Because you hear about uranium, but radium is really where it all started.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I've never talked about radium.
Yeah, and Ra, right? We talked a little bit. That's where Ra gets his name. Radium was named for rays because the element radium literally produces light. You can't see it, but under the correct magnification and devices, you can see it. And another name that comes up a lot, who was purchasing the most radium? Ingersoll. You know that name?
Ingersoll Lockwood.
Yeah. And who else? The writer, this tied in with the books about Trump. And
that's him, Ingersoll Lockwood.
Right. His family, get this, largest purchasers of radium. Why? Because their watch company was, that's how they made glow-in-the-dark watch handles. But things don't add up because this family was tied in with a lot of military stuff. And, anyone that's looked into Ingersoll, he was a pretty popular subject. So there's a lot of good research out there. But also,
that's interesting. Guns, for people that don't know, a lot of gun sights, like iron sights on guns, that will stay glowing green. Those are radium.
Yeah, they used it in most of their contracts were military. That's where the technology first became perfected. And then it made its way into the civilian market in watches. But the watch thing is really interesting. You made that joke to me earlier about Saturn and Janus. Well, you got this guy who, is not only related to books about time travel that are very relevant in the time now, but also in Florida.
What's the connection? Ingersoll is a watch. I don't know anything about watches.
Yeah, it's a watchmaker
company.
Correct.
Is that Ingersoll?
It's his family. He's related. It's not him himself.
Okay.
But it was one of the biggest watchmakers in the world at the time. I'm not sure if they got bought out or what exactly. I haven't really followed it too closely.
So here we go. Here's a good comment. Ingersoll made the Mickey watches for Disney.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gotta love the live chat. Thank you. Fabulous connection. Because we were talking about pitch and the swamps.
And
where they find a lot of radium. It's in pitch, which is in swamplands. And what does Florida have a lot of? Well, swamplands. And, we've conjectured about that Disney chose his location very purposefully, and you can only imagine what was there. I mean, Florida was covered in as many mounds as the Mississippi Valley, which a lot of people don't know. They just did a really good job of clearing them out. They were a lot easier to clear out because they weren't constructed quite the same way as the mounds along the Mississippi Valley, which were built by a lot of stone. Most of them here were shell mounds, which were quite a lot easier to tear apart than the mounds in the Mississippi Valley. You're muted. But yeah, I know I'm going all over the place here. So if you want to keep me on a specific subject.
No, that's great. Let's get into. Do you have that Radium article?
Man, it's so annoying. Of course, when you
Sorry.
Sorry. Radium. No, don't be sorry. But yeah, so back to the water before we get too far off topic. They were testing these spring waters, the healing springs from all these different areas. Unfortunately, I'm sure some of you guys out there may be able to help me out, but I wasn't. Me and Longo were just talking about this today, and I just was like, with my limited time today, going through old articles, so I couldn't find everything. But I couldn't find anything on Florida. But they basically went Austria, England, France. They went to all these famous healing springs and tested them and found that the radiums, parts per billion, the radiums was crazy. And so they started testing it, and they were healing all kinds of illnesses. It was pretty insane because the quantity is just right. We've talked about how magnetism, mineral content, and now it appears radium. All three are very important in making the perfect kind of concoction as far as a spring water. There's a lot that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and if spring water, like you just brought up, is traveling all under the United States, which me and you have already said off camera that I really believe you could take a boat all across America underground.
Mm-hmm.
If it's doing that and it's being filtered, you can only imagine not only radium, but the mineral content, which is really important, obviously. But yeah, where are we going? Sorry, I cut you off.
Nothing, just a lot of good points. If radium glows, they know Florida spring water glows a
Exactly.
tiny amount.
And
And
that's what first put in my head when you mentioned the Devil's Den water. Sorry, keep going.
They could be blaming it on the lime and quartz trace amounts. Well, if there's trace amounts of radium, it would only make sense. It could make it glow a little bit. But also,
yeah, because it's definitely low quantities for sure, but enough to have an effect. Because too much, as I was saying, it will absolutely kill you. It'll be toxic. With any mineral, they all have their place, but it has to be the right amount.
You were telling me earlier that radium generates helium out of thin air.
Out of the ether, that's correct.
Kind of like, so with uranium, I don't know anything about chemistry, but uranium, when things, I don't know. Uranium, for example, it's staying hot, it's staying burning, and it's letting off byproducts. So radium, one of those byproducts is helium.
Correct.
Now,
which is why they called it raw, because when they first found the element, it was connected with the helium of the sun.
Helios for helium, and raw for radium.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
And what's the elemental number for radium? Well, it's 88. And
wow,
I've been in numerology a lot over the years. I know we haven't talked about it on this show before, but the number 88 is pretty crazy. And its correlations are super important, not just to mention Back to the Future, which we can tie Ingersoll and Trump and the Twin Towers. Keep going.
And who else does 88? What's his name? Christopher. Who does the Batman movies? Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Uses 88 too. So
I didn't know that.
Steven Spielberg used 88 heavily. But also 8 is August. August is Leo. Leo's the sun. Right. So
Uranus as well, right?
88 people say is the Lionsgate portal, right? The Lionsgate is 88. And that's having to do with the sun, of course, which rules Ra, Helios, and something that this is like pretty out there, but for those that don't know, the periodic table of elements used to be arranged in someone saying 88 was a big number for Nazis too. It was, yeah, you're right. HH, I believe, is
loving the live chat. Thank you.
But HH is hydrogen and helium. You know that, right? And that's why the Nazi blimps had to do with 88 too. What
and
were they
helium,
mostly?
They were using radium to make. There was a helium shortage when the blimp age was really kicking off.
Yeah.
And guess who had a monopoly on all worldwide radium mining?
The Nazis.
Yeah, but guess what they were called in the 1800s? They were called the German Syndicate. And they are one of the most occult organizations. I have had the hardest time. So if any of you in the live chat have heard of this group, please reach out or say it in chat. So they owned all of the mines, and I got an article again. Unfortunately, I wasn't too prepared because it's a little off of what we were talking about. But there's a landowner in Colorado. Okay, when the radium thing was kicking off in Colorado, these landowners were getting just like basically kicked off their property. I don't know if you heard about the whole crazy thing with the Bundy Ranch in Oregon and the Clintons, where the Clintons went into the ranch in Oregon. That was about uranium. Was about a radium. They had the people's property. They were sitting on one of the largest radium deposits in America. So
it's funny. It's always when people think of radioactive, they almost never think of radium. They always think of uranium or plutonium.
That's a distraction for reals, because once you study radium really deep, this is the X-Men. X-Men is based off this. Did I ever show you that article about the tests they were doing with superhumans? They were making superhumans with radium. So Hulk.
I don't doubt it.
Hulk being green, what happens to Hulk?
He does turn green. Yeah.
He's there was a nuclear test, correct? And I can't remember exactly.
Shit.
And he's exposed to the explosion. And if anyone in chat can remember where it was, I think it was New Mexico. Like somehow his family was connected to the government. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, he turns green. He becomes huge. In these experiments, that's what happens. The people were glowing. They were literally glowing, and they had superhuman strength. And the articles I shared with you today, they were literally calling radium the fountain of youth. Right?
That was the one I wanted to see. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, this is all just stuff from I got some new computer parts for Christmas, and that's why I've been dumping a bunch of stuff lately off archive, just random without a lot of stuff that I haven't put in the public. And that's what I was sharing with you today. But yeah, so we're bridging the connection not only between Ingersoll, but the military, time travel, 88, all the water and the rivers being full of radium, spring water, healing springs that they tested in the 1800s that were literally healing people's illnesses, all kinds, were being tested and showing they had high concentrations of radium. And then what happens? Well, it doesn't take long before you know who is buying all the petroleum, which you get radium from petroleum. This is really crazy. You get a lot of radium from drilling for oil. So there's something there. I haven't looked into that too much. Again, if anyone has any information about it. But yeah, someone said in the chat, Superman, kryptonite, huge connection. Absolutely.
The Green Lantern. Of course, you have the Green Man of Ireland. Ironically, that's what kind of the light bulb went off in my head when you were talking earlier. The Floridians allegedly had a equivalent to the Green Man, to a green race of people that was kind of their mythological counterpart.
Oh, you're showing my screen. Can I share it? You want me to read this? And then I'll read off my phone the ones I shared with you that I don't have in the public. Just a few of those ones. Is that cool?
Sure.
And yeah, keep the questions or the stuff coming in live chat. Durango, Colorado. Christopher Higgins, thanks. Yeah, Colorado is huge. I'm going to read one of my favorite articles of all time before we get off air here, and kind of connect the Gulf Stream, uranium, the volcanism. This is all related. Again, the Atlanteans were doing some crazy stuff, and I think a lot of the volcanic systems are man-made. Yeah, we'll get into that. But I'll just read this article. I'll just kind of summarize it, though. The sea is...
Hang on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right before you go, the most compelling thing I've ever seen for volcanoes being man-made is there are videos of these basically piles where companies that, mass like dirt, essentially, types of dirt and rubble, they have these big open areas where they pile up rubble. And if you pile up enough of the wrong types of rubble, they literally create mini volcanoes. And all these little volcanoes are a pile of the wrong chemicals piled up together. And the pressure of that alone, sitting on top of itself, will create a smoldering, oozing volcano. And you can go see this on the internet. Volcanoes being made in real time. But whatever.
The leftovers of mining.
And how are the only way we've ever seen continents being created in real time is volcanoes spurting out a little bit of island.
And also this great point, because this connects back to what we were saying about the fertile soil I was mentioning. Radium in the right doses also makes for an extremely powerful crop aid, fertilizer. Not only does it literally destroy most insects in the right dosage, but it increases yield, all kinds of stuff. I think it has some advanced form of like structuring with the water. We've talked about the mineralization, the magnetism. Also, we've mentioned mountains would come alive when they were comets. So, along with these radium experiments, they had astrologers involved too. And they were hypothesizing that comets were balls of radium. And when they would pass over, mountains that weren't even volcanoes or thought to be active whatsoever would come alive. One of them is in a town close to my family in Georgia in the 1800s during a comet passed over a few days. It was like 3 days or something like that. A small mountain started spewing magma, and there had no earthquakes ever on record in that town. And this happens a lot. And as I mentioned to you privately, magma is iron liquid iron. It's like the blood of us, as above, so below. There are so many related correlations. And this liquid would be not only agitated during high sunspot activity, but also when these comets are passing above, creating crazy electromagnetic interference. But yeah, before I get off the topic, kind of cut you off. Is that all? Want me to keep reading? You're muted, so I'll keep reading. Sea charged with radium. The wonderful effects on the human system caused by sea bathing, have been known for time immemorial, and its curative and tonic effects have long been attributed to the salts that the ocean holds in solution. However, the salinity of the ocean, by the way, is also very interesting. It kind of strengthens the mass mining subject, because when they do the mining with the big jets of water, it completely destroys all the runoff in the creeks and everything downstream. And the salinity becomes insanely high. The pH gets all out of whack. And anyways, that was something I've hypothesized before, and I know there are people out there that have done a better job of formulating that into an actual hypothesis. But the salinity of the oceans and mining seem to be likely partners. The effects have long been attributed to the salts that the ocean holds in solution. However, it has only been recently that analytical chemistry has been enabled to reveal the true secret of the salt water. A long and careful series of experiments are now claimed to show a strong trace of radium in certain sections of the ocean. Thorium, an element that also sends out invigorating emanations, is also present in certain waters of the ocean. And it is now claimed that the bracing, nerve-strengthening effects of bathing in certain seawaters is due very largely to the action of radium and thorium, says that play continually in the ocean. Please jump in if you want, if something pops in your head.
So, I just want to make sure people out there get to know the astrological designations for these planets. With Ra and Helios, it's pretty obvious. With thorium, you were saying thorium, right?
Oh yeah, which is a byproduct of radium, just like uranium.
Wow. So thorium.
Yeah.
Jupiter.
Yeah, of course.
Now titanium, the Titan. That's a Saturn. Saturn has a couple other elements.
Absolutely, lead being the big one.
Lead, of course, yeah. Uranium, Neptunium. Those go along with Uranus, Neptune. Plutonium, Pluto, right?
Yeah.
Now, something really interesting. I would be interested in knowing the connection between monoatomic gold and radium, because helium, I've always said, is a octave of gold. It's a higher frequency of gold, a less dense form. For people that play instruments out there, you'll know what an octave is. Basically, two notes can be the same note, except this one's down here and this one's up here, right? And even though one's lower and one's higher, they're the same. They're different frequencies, but they're the same note, same pitch, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the periodic table of elements, for a short amount of time, or it was put forth by, I think, one person or one group of people, that the periodic table of elements for a long time was arranged in octaves musically,
Absolutely.
where one element is not just one element. It's the lower vibrational form of another element. And for example, helium would be the higher frequency incarnation, manifestation, whatever you want to call it, of gold.
Right.
And it's sounding like radium would be the next level above helium.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And NIMSA, have you heard that before?
Nope.
NIMSA was a aerial group of Germans in the Southern California region. And they're the ones, we talked about them a little bit. They're the ones that had that famous drawing of the blimp with Trump written on it in the same text you're used to seeing. I'm sure you've seen the picture before, right? No?
It's not ringing a bell.
Andreas shout out Andreas, did a fabulous video years ago on NIMSA. One of my favorites still. So in the 1800s, they had these crazy blimps like you've never seen before. And, man, I'm not going to find my Apergy post, but I have a post from Southern California, late 1800s. They were using radium and reversing magnetic fields to propel these blimps in the 1800s. So the NIMSA group, so we're in the same area. We're talking about the German syndicate again, right? Which you already kind of pointed to who that was, and I agree completely. Ties in with the Nazis, the Thule Society, right, and who they spring from. It's all related. They were the big root race people. We've talked about them too, and it's very important because the root race, the really good Blavatsky root race literature talks about the age where everyone was in flying machines. So it's not fantasy. Anyways, they were creating blimps with and they were using the word apergy, which apergy ties in with, if you're looking at my screen, ties in with, guess who? The Khorassan group. Because who was propelling and paying for most of the radium studies in America? Mr. Astor himself.
Mm-hmm.
So we're bridging a lot of gaps here. You got Astor, you got Ingersoll, right? This connects with Titanic and the changing of the guard from steam to petroleum and radium. I mean, these same groups of people that are not only traveling to Florida, but are buying up all of these, land grabs for mining and spring water and oil and gas and manufacturing of cars. It's all tied in. It's like the same. It's like a brotherhood for sure, right? And you got the German syndicate. A lot of these people were tied to Germany. And when you study Germany, they're quite the amazing situation. You had this small country who basically wanted to take on the world. And when you're in this space of kind of questioning the narrative, there was a lot of crazy technology going on in World War One. I don't know if you've ever delved into that, but they were using some crazy weapons. And the Germans had a lot to do with that. Anyways, so before I get too far gone from the thing, the apergy is really interesting. You did a great video on the Khorassan group. It didn't really touch too much on this, but Astor's connection is really important. He owned like 60 to 70% of all the mortgages in America. He did not want the Federal Reserve. This connects with Jekyll Island. We talked a little bit about Jekyll Island. Shout out Minds Unveiled. He's doing a Jekyll Island video, Georgia video he's working on right now. Looking forward to it. Everyone stay posted. It's going to be real good. But yeah, so we'll go back before, because I ramble. And then we'll talk about this one next. This is where a scientist was bringing back animals, okay, mummies with radium back to life with batteries and radium, okay, resurrection. What's the Halloween? Frankenstein, okay, right? You got the big, he's flipping the switch, you got all the electricity, right? Anyways.
Let the monkey sleep.
Yeah. Okay, so where was I? I think I was right here. So now back to the article, guys. And yeah, I'm sorry I'm not keeping up with the live chat. So if you have a question that you want answered or a statement that we're missing, just keep shouting from the rooftops, and hopefully I'll catch
No,
it.
we'll do a little
Q&A or something at the end.
Yeah, I like
Perfect.
an hour and a half.
Yeah, and you guys think about comic books, all that stuff. It's super related to this subject. Okay, now although the actual chemical composition, what the heck, of the ocean is practically everywhere the same, yet the rays given off by the radium in the sea water differ greatly in relative strength in various places. This is due to the fact that the presence of organic particles, whether from tiny animals or from sea vegetation, diminishes enormously in some sections the radiant power of the ocean. Funny story, while we were talking, I was like, let's go look at some scientific literature and see if I can find where they were studying ocean salinity and radium. And guess where they were studying it? In the 40s, in the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, no coincidence. It is interesting to learn, however, that the vast oceans of the Earth, covering far more space than their dry sections, are alive with radium, and that every gallon of seawater is sending out radium waves that contain health and strength for the nations. The waters of the Mediterranean contain the smallest proportion of radium of all the open waters of the globe. Okay.
Okay, so hang
Not
on.
the Fertile Crescent. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I just wanted to let's just earmark that. The Mediterranean has the least radium on the planet, the Mediterranean Sea.
Of course. Yep.
Now, that makes sense considering why they're trying to shove it down our throats so hard that this is where you came from. This is where society came from. This is where, and they're getting blasted by volcano after volcano, and it's dry, it's arid,
Yeah, and shout out Longo, your last video. I really loved it. The true Fertile Crescent. People have really liked it. A lot of views. And wouldn't it be cool if we broke 20K on this stream? If someone was mentioning that.
Oh, I think we might. Yeah, I was planning
Congratulations, by the way. That's awesome.
Thanks. I was planning on doing a 20K special, but it snuck up so fast that I can't. So
yeah, that last video was great, and I think that strengthens it. I mean, you made a lot of really great points with not only the agriculture, the general dryness of everything. It doesn't make sense. The shape is all wrong.
No crescent.
No crescent.
Yeah.
But yeah, and yeah. Anyways, so yeah, really great point. I knew you'd love that. The fact accounted for undoubtedly by the narrow connection afforded by the Pillars of Hercules. As to the interesting question of the origin and the source from which the ocean gathers its radium rays, science teaches that the main factor is the ocean current. The what current? The Gulf Stream current. And we'll get into that in a second, so people remember that. Rays are claimed to originate in great ascending currents that lie near the equator. Near the equator, guys. Ascending currents in the equator. For it is along the equator and along certain seashores swept by these currents that the seawater gives off the most powerful radium rays. The Indian Ocean is especially strong in radium, while all around the entire Earth, along the line of the equator, the radium emanations are 300 times as strong as the average found in the entire atmosphere. Really powerful. So this is kind of also what I've hypothesized, that perhaps in the fall of the vapor canopy, that there was a lot more atmospheric energy, right? With higher, what is it? Not precipitation. When you have more moisture in the air, humidity. With higher humidity, you have more electrical current, right? The more places that average high humidity, they average more lightning strikes.
No, you're exactly. You're exactly right. People think that it's the other way around, that the drier air means more friction in the air. It's not true because it's density.
Right. And the radium floats. So you have the sun rays and the radium working together. I think this is part of what perhaps fuels climactic weather, tornadoes, hurricanes, more likely hurricanes, but lightning as well. You have the air is charged with radium. We've talked about the vapor canopy before, so perhaps when there was more conductivity in the atmosphere, we talk about the purple haze. Also, something that you said, I forgot to mention earlier, Helios. When you go far enough back in the record, Helios was called Sol. Okay, Sol is the Latin expression of Helios. And guess who went by Sol long ago? Saturn.
That's a good one, but I'll do you one better.
Please.
Can you say Helios backwards for me, please? Soil.
Oh yeah.
Soil.
Yeah. Has husbandry, right? Saturn too, right? The scythe. Scythians, right? He was the god of agriculture. A lot of connections there. And you mentioned the number 8. Well, who is above the 7th planet? Who would be the 8th, technically?
Uranus.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Janus.
Yeah, you're right. The eighth chakra would be
the portal
would be Janus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uranus.
Right. Lots of connections there too, because we've talked a little bit on this channel about Janus, but that's a wormhole. That's Jesus. That's the portal. That's the door. That's the way in or the way out.
That's the year.
Yeah. And since we're so close, we're only 4 days away. If you guys don't know, if you don't follow me, that's fine. But Janus is an incredibly powerful subject, and he is the lodestone. All the alchemists in the 1500s, 1400s, 1300s, Janus was synonymous with the lodestone, which was the portal, the living entity. Every religion worships the stone, and the people that do sacrificial offerings, they offer iron to the stone, bathed in blood. Yeah. Anyways, I'll get off the subject here, so I'll get back to this. For blah 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 along the heat and spun the earth. Okay, but since the radium deposits that furnish the ocean supplies must be enormous, scientists who have investigated the matter deny that it is the ocean itself that provides the radium rays. If it came from the ocean bottom, I don't know what that says. Calcification, maybe no. Calculations, show that there would be required a layer of about 27 feet thick all over the bottom of the ocean bed. This is really important because if true, it strengthened what we were talking about earlier with the Gulf being one of the most prominent places for deep offshore drilling. I think they could possibly be related. 24, the ocean bed. This is an impossible supposition, so that the explanation is offered.
Supposition.
Thank you. Offered that the ocean acquires its radium rays from the vast quantity carried into it from all the waters of the earth. In other words, it is the deposits carried into the ocean from the eating away of the continent that supply its marvelous and until recently utterly unsuspected radium powers. So yeah. Oh. Hello. Wants to be a part of the stream.
Aww.
I wish I had my cat.
Say hello, Arion. Aww. Meow meow.
Meow meow. Arian Rogers right there, guys. Okay, so why don't I jump into something too really quick since we got this going. Okay, so here's another article, guys. Found and lost again, Kentucky, 1906. Peculiar antediluvian animal, bird, or fish, or combination. Okay, so they don't even know what this is. Antediluvian. Prepared a solution of radium, soaked for several weeks. Most remarkable find of all paleontology. Arranged a powerful galvanic battery. Immediately a commotion. It mounted aloft. Between birds and fishes is found and lost again. Science, especially as regards its relation to the doctrine of evolution of species, suffered an irreparable loss recently at Benton on account of carelessness and neglect on the part of W. Willits. Several months ago, he received from a friend of his in Arizona the dried up mummy of what appeared to be some peculiar antediluvian animal or bird or fish or a combination of all. And again, if you guys don't follow me, you don't need an account to look at my stuff on Twitter. You can just search my name and read my articles. I have an unbelievable amount of post-deluge fossils that will blow your mind. Animals that were 900 feet tall, fishes that were 400 feet long, snakes that were 200 feet long, snakes that had horse heads, unicorns. It goes on and on.
Jesus Christ.
Or a combination of all. And inasmuch as the beast appeared to show on the surface of its terrible twisted shape both features and scales, he wondered if it might not be one of the missing links of evolution, that the creature was immediate between fishes and birds. Determined to discover as much about it as possible, and being able financially to indulge his fancies, he prepared a mild solution of radium. Well, this is true because he had to have the money, because radium was incredibly expensive and hard to get. And in this, he soaked the mummy for several weeks. Shout out Alchemist, who's in the chat, or was in the chat. He does a lot of really amazing stuff, soaking all kinds of things, gold. And man, I love his opinion on all of this when we do the Q&A. So Alchemist, if you're still here. He soaked the mummy for several weeks. Gradually, the hard, leathery tissue of the creature softened and swelled. The twisting out and there developed the most remarkable find of all paleontological discoveries since the dawn of science. The animal, which he had soaked out in the radium, was both a fish and a bird. It had a curved, horny beak, much like that of an eagle, fitted out inside the jaws with teeth like those of a pickerel. Its body was covered with scales like those of a fish, and on its shoulders it had long, strong, feathered wings, while its tail also was provided with strong feathers. It had 2 feet, also with hooked claws. Mr. Willits was a happy man when the value of his find was fully disclosed, but the workings of his mind under the pressure of the great discovery showed with startling clearness how true it is that we are never fully satisfied, however fortune may dying? I don't know. To bless us.
DM, like days and. Oh, never mind. Sorry.
I think it's just a misspelling.
Dane.
Yeah, maybe not. To bliss us. Mm-hmm. His discovery was a marvelous thing, but it occurred to him how much more marvelous it would be if, purchased by the application of a galvanic battery, he might be able to revive dormant life in the wonderful creature and show an amazed world how Darwinian lynx used to comport themselves in the days of old. And so he did this. He arranged a powerful galvanic battery attached to the poles thereof properly to the bird, fish, bird, or whatever the animal should be called, and turned on the current. Immediately there was a great commotion in the vat of liquid radium. The creature thrashed about and uttered strange gurgling shriek, like that of which Willits had never heard before, swam violently to and fro, and for a few minutes then, with a terrific splashing of the fluid and whirling of the wings, it mounted aloft, dashed through the nearest window, and disappeared in the outer air. It is supposed that it fell to the earth again after flying about a mile, for an old hunter living that distance from Willits' place reports that the time the creature escaped, a scanless-looking animal came over flying along and flopping down in the yard, and I given it to the dogs for supper. Mr. Willits is greatly shattered by the loss.
Okay,
yeah, what do you think?
He fed the mermaid bird to his dogs, or he fed the remnants of it.
Yeah.
He fed the whole thing to his dogs.
I don't know. It crashed his yard. His dogs are probably already out there. Who knows?
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, so I mean, I know a lot of these things can sound fanciful, but when you've gone through as many radium articles as I have, which is pretty much all I could find, you find a lot of weird stuff. They were doing this with people. And I think this is kind of where the Frankenstein concept comes from. The zombie subject matter that's really prevalent nowadays. I mean, there's a lot of people that say zombies are walking among us right now. Living dazed and confused. But
Well, when we were doing in one of our chats, we talked about Ben stones and zombies.
Yep.
And how you could make the argument that when you see the people going around the Kaaba, and if you didn't know what religion was, and you just saw these people kind of compulsively going round and round, you might think they could be zombies. What's compelling them to do that?
mhm.
And lodestones can have that type of effect on people, can't they?
Oh, and birds especially, animals, humans,
Oh yeah,
but
they pick up on atmospheric.
well, oh yeah, the all the creatures of the world that migrate, all the migratory animals of the world use magnetism.
Wow, that makes me think of who are kind of these zesty ethnic groups that we keep coming back to, is the largely migratory ones
Yeah,
in the old world contexts.
yeah, the wanderers, right? Making a pilgrimage,
Mhm.
right?
And they seem to have their hands deepest in the free energy pockets.
Oh man,
Or
yeah, great connection.
the migrators, right? The Phoenicians, the Scythians, the Roma, the Gypsy, the Berber,
Mm-hmm.
and even just the people who show up out of nowhere, like the Basque, the Irish, that's just on one side of the Atlantic too.
Yeah, the pilgrimage thing with Mecca and the stone. Man, we're not going to have enough time, but that just makes me think. I have this really amazing article about it's in one of the Dakotas. A woman gets literally mesmerized by a whole mound of lodestones. They had to, like, how when you see how ball magnets will arrange themselves in geometric patterns, right? She had found a stack of stones in like a perfect pyramid. It looked like cannonballs inside of old star forts. Those pictures where they just like stack cannonballs in a pyramidal shape. She had your mic's muted. She had wandered across this stack of perfectly shaped balls in a pyramid, and she got close to it, and then all of a sudden she blacked out, and she was wandering around the stones just like you said for like a whole day, and another person happened to stumble upon her, and they were like yelling at the lady, and they couldn't even get her to respond, and they had to like drag her away. He could feel the power of the pyramid, the stack of the stones, and he like had to resist it and pull her away from it, and she came to. Anyways, it's a crazy story. But yeah, the Ben stone, like we were saying, religions, yeah, they were hooking these lodestones up to batteries, and they were doing crazy things. And we've talked on your show already that the coronation chair that comes from Scotland that they stole and brought to England. The story went, as I've said on the show, but for those who don't remember, that they would sit future kings on the throne, and if the stone whistled, made a whistling sound, or vibrated, they weren't meant to be king. It wasn't until a person sat on the stone and it was perfectly still were they suitable to be king. And we've talked about the sword in the stone, that only the right person, right? It's the same concept.
That also makes me, we were just talking about zombies. That also makes me think of The Thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen John Carpenter's
Of course.
The Thing? And where are they? Are they in Antarctica or the Arctic?
Somewhere cold. I can't remember which one.
But are there northern lights in that movie? I don't know. But
I can't. It's been a long. It's been 20 years.
If it's in Antarctica, I'd assume there's not any northern lights. But the chat will probably know.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be wrong about Hollywood movies, so I don't care. But,
yeah, Stephen King had a movie, and I won't remember the name of it, but it was a similar premise. There was a evil presence that was possessing they lived somewhere high in the north, like a town where only these people stuck around during the winter to maintain something. I can't remember the whole story. Stephen King movie. These guys were getting possessed and like killing the other people there, and yeah, um, it reminds me exactly of that. It's like the Fifth Element movie. The planet approaches and the black goo eases and he's like possessed. The evil dude. I've done a breakdown on the Fifth Element. That movie's incredible.
We're gonna start doing movie nights.
Oh,
on this
dude.
channel or something, and we'll.
I doubt I'll be able to make it, but I'll try my best. Man, Fifth Element. It's Fifth Element. We've talked about ether, which is the fifth element, the quintessence, right? And this is magnetism too. Relates to the Gulf of Mexico, the Q, the compass, right? And the Phoenicians, what was their highest?
Oh, and compasses a lot of the time have radium in them.
Exactly.
That's one of the only times you'll find it in a civilian application.
All military compasses have radium. Yeah. I mean, maybe not now, but they definitely did. My dad still had his, and I remember it glowed in the dark. But yeah, anyways, we were talking about movies. Where were we? You muted yourself again.
Sorry, my computer's humming. I don't want to blow up the stream. But in The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, you have when they do the test, they're testing for the zombies, and he drops. What does he do? He puts the hot like a hot prod into the blood.
Yeah. To see its reaction,
and then it jumps up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, now I feel like I gotta go back and watch that. There's a lot in that. Yeah, because it's also funny, right? Me and you haven't talked about it, but I spent a long time delving into RH negative and the odd magnetic effects they were noticing when they first started separating RH negative.
Are you RH negative?
I am RH negative. I'm A negative.
You're A negative.
My mother's O negative.
I'm A negative.
Look at that, huh?
Have we talked about that before?
No, we haven't. I've heard you talk about it, I believe, on another show.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe or another episode. Yeah, how funny is that? Yeah, my mother, who has the predominant Cherokee blood, she's O negative.
Oh yeah, O seems to be more Native American.
Universal, right?
Well, yeah.
The Red Cross. My mother works for a hospital. They treat her like a queen. They've offered to pay for her blood. O negative is incredibly rare. I think AB negative is the most rare, but
yeah, AB negative is the rarest.
Where was I? Okay, so here's where I was. You ever heard the term blood brother?
Yep.
There were groups around the world that would cut themselves and mix the blood. The story is that they would do it with a handshake. They would cut their palms and handshake their palms. And if the blood repelled, you're muted. It's muted again.
It's okay.
And if the blood repelled, they weren't blood brothers.
Huh.
But if the blood coalesced, they were related.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard that side of the blood brother story?
I mean, I've heard the first half of that practice, but not the what they're trying to get out. Not what you just said.
Well, yeah, because you brought up the John Carpenter part where the blood wanted to get away. It reacted in a negative magnetic way, right? It repelled, or you know what I'm trying to say. Yes. But yeah, I won't know who they are, so maybe chat can help me out. There were Native American groups in America that did this. And I can't say if they did the handshake or if they mixed the blood or what, but I think that's related to see if your blood coalesced or if it didn't. But yeah, since my mom worked at a hospital and I found out, I was like, after I had to have a blood transfusion, my appendix ruptured, I got really sick. I had sepsis, blah, blah, blah. The hospital was talking about blood because I went through this. And I had at the time been looking into RH negative. and the mysteries of Rh negative.
Mhm.
And I didn't believe any of the rhesus monkey relation stuff. So I was really diving into the Rh gene, what it meant, Rh negative. How could you have two groups of humans that have such virtually different blood, you know? And magnetism ended up being part of that. Long story short, I found out through that process that my mom's O negative, and me, my sister, and my father are A negative. And I told you that my mom's father has Basque blood, Scottish Basque blood. And yeah, so anyways, I had coalesced it all into this whole subject. But yeah, I'm getting off topic with the blood brother thing. I thought that was very interesting. It's what made me think about it. But yeah, you're muted again. So
Nothing. I was just.
what are you thinking?
I was just.
Since I brought up the Rh negative, me and you haven't talked about it before, so maybe if there's something you want to.
Well, I mean, you know, Robert Sepper says that he doesn't want to know because he thinks it's going to affect his research. You know.
Yeah,
Like
it did. It
bias.
affected mine. Yeah, it affected mine a little bit.
I mean, it's hard to not, you know, let that creep in when everyone's saying, and everyone's pretty much in agreement that it brings some type of spiritual, or spiritual is not even the right word. It's an energetic difference between. It seems like the most fundamental difference between humans is the spiritual aptitude that comes along with Rh negative, or not even just spirituals. People, what do people call it? The witch's blood.
Yeah.
The Atlantean blood, the dragon seed. Some even call it the Illuminati bloodline, and that's kind of what I was saying. Is some people downright just think if you're Rh negative, you're Illuminati. You know, so that's silly, and I think, you know, people.
Yeah, and I think I had mentioned this on the show before, but my same grandfather that's Basque, that has that their family goes way back, and my grandmother from Georgia and Florida. My great grandfather on his side, he went by the nickname Pharaoh, and he was arrested during the Salem witch trials and was in prison for 6 months. Yeah, and he obviously, I would imagine, would have been Rh negative. So just a funny connection since you said witch's blood.
Now, when people talk about Nephilim, that's not necessarily true, because you're conflating biblical myth with Greek reality, or just world reality. You know, what I think I can say for sure is Rh negative blood is Atlantean blood. It is early Atlantean, which you'd call, it only comes from one place, the North Pole. Rh negative blood only comes from one place, and that's the North Pole. And that's the Vikings, the early, you know, Atlantean means many things, but Rh negative blood came from the North Pole down to the equator and nowhere else, you know, and it's an early thing, and it goes right along with the European race. But also, when you look at your favorite artists, world leaders, not just white, so black, brown, Asian, it's more rare in those races. But when you go down your Spotify, when you go down your world heroes, you know, the frequency of Rh negative blood is very high, like very high in terms of world leaders, geniuses. They say AB negative. AB negative, this is no joke. You know, please fact check me on this. AB negative, if your blood type is AB negative, you're almost guaranteed a 120 plus.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing.
IQ. So that's AB negative specifically, which is one of the rarest, if not the rarest, in some places. And you're almost guaranteed a genius level IQ with AB negative blood. That's not what I have, so I'm not saying that. I have A negative blood.
I've also heard they have one of the highest levels of 100+ year lifespans.
I've heard that too. Yeah. And you know, The Japanese, still to this day, it's very common. It's more common than astrology is for us in the West. They will use blood type,
For
personality
mating.
type,
Yeah.
mating, job, even hiring. They'll only hire certain types. And for them, it's not like a belief system. It's not a spiritual. They're like, this person's type A. Okay, no good. Can't hire him. You know, it's not like a spiritual thing where they're like, ooh, let me meditate on the vibes. You know, they're like, he's type A. Okay, that's not going to work. We need a type B in this role. And they take it very seriously in Japan, in some other Asian countries, but it's pretty much lost on the West.
On purpose. On purpose.
Mhm.
I had to special request my children be tested and their blood type be told to me. They
Mhm.
flat out thought I was nuts.
Yeah. You had to get a transfusion as an A negative. That was probably pretty tough.
It was.
Right.
Yeah. But because I have 3 family members,
Right.
my sister actually, because my father had hepatitis, unfortunately, got in the military, so he couldn't be used. But my younger sister.
Nice.
Yep. But yeah, and like I said, I just knew through my mother that there was a lot of weird stuff with the blood, and I've never trusted the Red Cross. I've always been
Oh man,
incredibly uncomfortable by
Yep.
Vaccinations. Sorry,
Oh yeah.
buddy. And needles. It didn't make sense to me that something needed to pierce my flesh to help me.
No.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of health. You're sacrificing your most basic.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You're sacrificing your most basic layer of protection.
Yeah.
You're saying,
that's why your skin is there.
Come on in. Come on. You're just inviting whatever comes along with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I don't want to get too polarized there.
Well, talk about.
But yeah, so the blood is really important.
Well,
and it's magnetic.
The blood buses.
Yes.
Where are they always parked outside? In Florida, at least.
Churches, schools, and hospitals.
Okay.
What about in Florida?
I'll tell you, where I see them, Whole Foods.
Weird. They don't do that here.
Whole Foods.
Weird. That's a red flag.
In Boca Raton, Florida, almost once a month, they have the blood bus in front of the Boca Raton Whole Foods. And
did that start since Mr. You Know Who bought them out, or has that been going on forever?
I don't know who Mr.
Whole Foods got bought out by Amazon.
Oh, okay, Amazon, yes, I know. So yes, probably. But why I'm saying it is because they're probably after the cleanest stuff they can get, right?
Oh yeah, the organic.
They want
blood.
Exactly. They want the vegetarian vegan blood. If you guys have ever heard of the Hampstead case, the Hampstead case was a pretty brutal child, exploitation, all the bad words we can't say, pretty much. The Hampstead case in England or Britain, one of the Britons, not England, maybe. It was a whole school that was basically ritualistically blanking children underneath this church and pool and community pool and stuff. The whole community was in on it. And basically, they even flat out said, they told the kids were vegan, that they were 2 of the kids that they abused the most were vegans. And they said they like using the vegan children because their energy is purer. They taste better, essentially. They're not as dirty. So when I see them putting the blood bus outside of Whole Foods, that's the first thing I think of. And you could make the argument that Whole Foods has a bunch of junk in it now, of course, but it's better than nothing, Yeah,
it's better than Walmart. You won't see a one outside of Walmart, I bet.
No.
Yeah, so funny thing about me, that I don't talk about a lot. My wife's Mormon,
Hmm.
and the Red Cross loves coming to the church. You know, no alcohol, no stimulants, generally a better diet than most. So funny that you brought up the whole foods thing. It made me think of that. But yeah, definitely a relation, I'm sure.
Hmm.
Funny. Anyways, we always go on these great tangents. Where do you want to go next?
We got a couple.
You want me to read
minutes.
some? You want me to go over some of those articles I sent you? They're pretty small, and I can just kind of summarize them for everybody.
Yeah, and any of the ones you sent me the last couple of days were good. The Seminoles with the turbines were good. The Seminole turbine, or if you want to stay on what we're talking about, I don't care. Let me see the ones you sent me.
Yeah, you can pick. I'm just going to start reading some, okay? And then
Sure,
you can take that time.
Go for it.
Radium and spring water. All these ones I'm going to read are from like 18.
Oh, you got these ones. Yeah, just read these.
Yeah, 1850 to like 1910 at the latest, usually 1800s. Radium and spring water. Richard Gunther, consul general at Frankfurt, Germany, has reported to the State Department at Washington that a professor of the University of Freiburg, who has been investigating as to the existence of radium in nature, has come to the conclusion that all natural springs of water and also the petroleum wells possesses a heavy gas whose radiations are similar to and probably identical with radium. So I love that one because two birds with one stone. You got the radium in the gas for petroleum, and you got the radium in the spring water. Radium in spring water. Some of Professor Curry's most recent experiments with radium have dealt with its presence in mineral water. To an English interviewer, the scientist said, "My experiments leave no room for doubt. There are certainly radioactive principles in these waters, but as I am not a doctor, it would be rash of me to say they have a curative virtue. However, in view of the facts that we have to go upon, it seems highly probable that they are." And remember, guys, I want you to think about this in the Garden of Eden, spring water abundance of Florida, because this is what's bringing me and Longo together. It is a very old medical opinion that the waters of certain famous springs must be taken on the spot, or their curative virtues are lessened. Analysis is unable to give an explanation of the potent virtues of the Carlsbad's waters. The discovery of radium in several springs offers a new and most interesting explanation of the hitherto mysteries and curative activity which vanishes when they have been bottled. Taking samples of the radioactive springs, Professor Curry and Laborde found that after bottling, their activity fell by half in 4 days and eventually vanished altogether.
Yeah, because what is it? It's radium. It needs to radiate. It needs to expand.
Yep.
That's.
Go ahead.
No, that's all.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, you're removing it from its source, and you're bottling it, right? It dissipates. It's just like digging it out of the earth. This is another one I'll summarize because it's a big one. Search for radium in Missouri cave. MU instructor tries to find source of valuable sample. It's traced. If traced, it may mean new industry in this state. Instructor in chemistry can find out where to sample the sands. Blah 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 blah. Radium springs. I saw someone mention this place in chat. There are a few different radium springs. There's one, I believe, in Missouri. There's one in Virginia. There might be other ones. This one is in the Ozarks, which we talked about already. And I have some incredible articles, again, about the Ozarks. They have caves there that'll blow your mind. Giants, mummies, hieroglyphics, Egyptians, Phoenicians, Grecians, you name it. 100-mile long caves in the Ozarks. Crazy stuff. Last fall, word came to the University of Missouri that there were hopes of radium in this country. Blah blah blah. Next part. Go to the next part. The selling radium water. The owner, J.P. Magel, was doing quite a business in radium water from the spring. So the guy that owned the land was selling the water from his spring. He had 2 wagons hauling it away to be sold in Chicago. There were dozens or so sick persons camped there at the springs for the benefit of their ills. These ills included everything from rheumatism, indigestion, and kidney disease. They were getting well, too. They praised the curative value of the water very highly to Mr. Shepard. Mr. Magel had a printed book of testimonials telling of wonders wrought in the past by his spring water. Mr. Shepard, however, was sacrilegious enough to test the water. He found that there were radium springs, more radium than radium springs. My apologies. So radium springs is what they're comparing this to. So it had more water than radium springs. And you guys in chat can remind me where the radium springs is. I think it's Virginia, but I could be wrong. After returning to Columbia, Mr. Shepard obtained a sample of sand taken from 3 different places in the cave. There was radium in this sand at about the margin of pavement. He is now looking for the sand of 3 that has the radium in it. He thinks there's a chance of finding it in good quantities. The rest of this doesn't really matter. But basically, you heard the word got around, and people were literally camping outside this cave to get the spring water. And the professor had put together a printed book of testimonials telling of the wonders wrought in the past. So yeah, jump in there if you want to, Longo. And you're muted, by the way.
You want to take some questions?
Oh, please. Yeah, stop me.
Sure. All right, guys. So.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Let's do one more.
Okay, one more.
Just one, and I'll just read the
one
title.
more, guys.
This was the one I sent you. Asserts radium.
Go.
Sorry. Asserts radium is the fountain of youth. Berlin doctor declares it restored hardened arteries and likened it to the elixir of life. That's all. Go ahead.
All right, guys. Questions in all caps. Okay. I'll let my my mods get some first dibs. Questions in all caps, please.
I love the astrology part of this conversation. I think we could make a whole show just on that part of it, and working radium, the octaves, the tones, the calendars, the old calendars,
chakras.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And
okay.
And number 8 and 88.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
I need a numerology consultant. Numerology is not my forte whatsoever. But here we go. First question, and I'm going to ask it to you to start off. What's the chances, God damn it, what's the chances all this is real and not theory? Okay, that's not a good question. But
it's it's like anything on YouTube, it's conjecture. And we hope you guys are just enjoying the chat and the information provided, and that it's sparking some new avenue of thought for all of you. And we appreciate you partaking with us, mostly.
Yeah, Dan, I think Dan's just trolling. Yeah.
Dan always has funny things to say.
Yeah, Dan's a troll.
And all you guys in chat, don't knock on the Mormons, guys,
I know. Yeah, guys.
I'm not a Mormon, but I've studied everything about them, and let me tell you, their history is pretty damn close to what I really believe, and they are far more open about what's been hidden, and especially in regards to America. So don't hate. I know the difference between Mormons and Moors. I know the difference. I've been
we're not
talking about this for 10 years. So take it easy. There are a lot of really great people.
We're not saying Moors and Mormons are the exact same people.
Not at all.
I'm guilty of that. I'll say, Athens, Georgia equals Athens, Greece. Am I saying that Athens, Greece does not exist? No. I'm saying there's a harmony there that goes
Harmony, great word.
that goes beyond just the name meaning. But thanks, stay away. He's hard to keep happy.
Yeah, keep the negative stuff, to yourself for the most part, and just be open-minded. And yeah.
Oh God, he's not gonna like that. So there's a lot. My chat is like spotting out. I'm gonna try and keep up. Here's a good question. I think this is kind of for me. Where's the best place in Florida to buy land to access with these springs aquifers? So, as far as the aquifer, well, almost every state in America has an aquifer of some type, right? That's just water coming up out of the ground. So, with the aquifer, that's just kind of a layer. There's a layer, and the aquifer inhabits that whole layer underneath of Florida. So with the aquifer down in Miami, you can tap into the aquifer. For example, the Coral Castle is tapped into the aquifer, and the spiral staircase that he has that goes down into the well, that's tapped straight into the groundwater. So that goes up and down with the tides. Even though that's just a little staircase well, that well goes up and down with the tides. And he could tell when he was going to do stuff, when to do things electromagnetically based off the water level. He'd say,
I love it.
That's a good day. He's like, oh,
I didn't know that. That's great.
He had marks written, so when the water level was up or down, he could see the groundwater level, and say, aha, now's when I have to go out and do this or do that, because the electromagnetic.
Yeah. In the 1700s, they attributed the tides totally to magnetism.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the moon, and the moon's a magnetic mother. Exactly. Magnetic mother. That's just holding us.
They didn't say gravity or any of these things, these funny terms we have. They just called it the magnetic tides.
So to answer your question, the aquifer you can tap into just about anywhere in the state. But so the Coral Castle's tapped in, Vizcaya is tapped in down in Miami, Coral Castle. So you can tap into it, and you can draw it out, and you can fill up a basin like a swimming pool with it. But for the natural springs that have magnitude and are actually pumping out, those are kind of naturally designated. Those are kind of there's only a couple spots in the world where they come up with that high magnitude, and most of them are in Florida. But if you want to buy land with a spring, you've got to, for the most part, go above north of Tampa Bay area. There are some south of Orlando area, but south of Orlando, north of Lake Okeechobee and up, it has to be. And the higher frequency as you get up closer towards the Panhandle. And then there's a lot up in the Alabama, Floribama area. There's a lot up to South Carolina. That's the same aquifer, actually. The Floridian aquifer goes up, covers a lot of the southeast United States. So, it's hard. It's hard to find good springs today on land, but we're going to keep it moving. Next question. Are the Radium springs open to the public? You said there's a few, but do your best.
There's a ton. But you'd have to check. I didn't look into any of these as to them being open today. But in the 1800s, early 1900s, guess who was buying them? If Rockefeller couldn't buy the land that the spring was on, he was buying the hotel. He did this in Arizona. You can look into that. There's plenty of people that have shown the healing springs in Arizona. There were already resorts there. He bought them up.
All the spring hotels in Florida, all of them burned down before the stock market collapse. Okay. They all burned down. Each spring had a giant 200, 500 person hotel next to the springs. That was the only reason people had to come down to Florida before 1920s. Before 1929, when the stock market collapse hit, that killed the spring water tourism industry. And it also helped promote whatever, blah, blah, blah. Next question. Could frequencies control what we can see with our eyes? Yes. But
Of course.
yes.
It's all vibration, so yes, of course.
Yeah. I mean, what are you seeing? You're seeing things vibrating on the inside of your eye. You're seeing a reflection on the inside of your eye. And when you see things in a dream, you're seeing things. You're still getting the same, sensory activity. You're just not using an eyeball. So you can see without eyeballs.
If you want to look into that further, you guys, you can look into Do Blind People Dream? I believe that's the name of the book.
Wow. Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's the book. You can Google that, and there's one or two books, and they're absolutely fabulous, and it'll change the way you look at things. No pun intended.
What will be the first movie for movie night? And why?
Great question. Have you thought about it?
It depends. Yeah, if we're doing it astrologically, it's probably going to be it's got to be either a Kubrick or a. Who do we want to do? See if my girlfriend's here. No, she's not. Kubrick, of course. Kubrick is. I've seen.
We should do.
What?
If you know his name in chat, I'm spacing it. Gnostic Media, Gnostic Reclamation. He showed that The Shining and Eyes Wide Shut overlay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really amazing.
Oh yeah, everything Kubrick touched is
multifaceted, of course.
Oh my God.
And you know me, the Ben stuff is my wheelhouse. So Space Odyssey would be my choice, but I'm excited to hear which one you choose.
Okay, well we'll do that one with you. But it depends. If it's just like stuff that I want to talk about in Florida, there are no Florida movies, ironically. That's the biggest red flag right there. Why aren't there any Florida native movies? You have everything in the Midwest. You have the natives. Everything on the East Coast. You have the European landing movies where the Europeans land on the East Coast of America and meet the natives. There's all these movies, all these TV shows, all the cowboy and Indians, the pioneers, all covered. But you never see native Californians or native West Coast, Southwest Coast, and you never see native Floridians being depicted. You see Caribbeans being depicted, South Americans being depicted. You never see Californians or Floridians, ancient Floridians, ancient Californians being depicted. You never see it. Probably because Florida was a land of immortal giants and California was a land of black, probably giants as well. It's not my expertise, but let's get on to something else.
That's going to be really great. That'll be fun.
Any thoughts on how Rainbow Springs got its name? I don't have the answer. I would assume, looking at Rainbow Springs, it's one of the most beautiful springs. Looking at it from an aerial perspective, it has some of the most blue, green, just ranges of blue and green that I've seen in a single spring, because it's like a big spring feeding a big open river. So it's spring water mixing with a couple different sources of water, so you get a lot of colors mixing. And in some spots, here's a good radium. This is a really good radium thing that we have to do. Have you ever seen turmeric? You ever cook with turmeric and see
turmeric?
Yeah. Turmeric. Sorry.
Yeah.
I have a Floridian accent.
Yeah, no worries.
If you ever seen turmeric with when it's left over, it leaves that highlighter green. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
wow, I didn't even make that connection. And you know what's funny? Before we go too far, Indians used radium chalk and covered themselves in it in their ceremonial dances. And guess what? It was yellow.
Hmm.
just like the Devil's Cave that we started out with. Remember,
Yellow-
the yellow devils,
Yellow people, yeah.
and supposedly it made them hallucinate,
Mhm.
rubbing themselves in this radium.
Don't say
material.
yellow. Don't say yellow skin. Don't say red skin.
Yeah,
Right. Those you're not allowed to say yellow skin, red skin. Right.
yeah.
Well, whether it's red ochre or with the red iron oxide
Hmm.
or the radium, like you're saying. But why I was saying that with the turmeric is whenever you see Florida swamp water, I've got to get a video of this, and we're gonna come back on and we'll do another radium thing because I have to find this video. It's perfect. When you see Florida swamp water, like the muck, like the nasty crap water in like the mangrove swamps, when you see that mix with pure Florida spring water, when they mix, the silt gets like shaken off of the, cruddy muck water. And there's a stream of like highlighter juice, like turmeric. It looks like turmeric is just being generated out of thin air. And it's
Wow.
there's a green glow, not like the water is turquoise, right? The water is blue,
Hmm.
like crystal blue. But
Mm.
then there's like highlighter green being bleeding into the water out of the muck. Like inside the muck,
Yeah.
there's
The
like,
radium's in the silt.
mhm. It has to be
Wow. And the
radium.
mineral and it's being acted upon by the high magnetism or high pH of the spring water.
Susquehanna alchemy. I don't know anything about that.
I'll take it. I love Susquehanna alchemy.
Okay.
What was your buddy that you were on his show? He hooked you up with
Robert
tinfoil
Phoenix.
hat.
Mark.
Mark. He does a show with the guy who wrote all the Susquehanna alchemy stuff,
Mhm.
and I'm a big fan of his. How does it fit in? Well, it doesn't really fit in so much with Florida, but it does tie in with water and spring water and life and the goddess worship. It also ties in with the Algonquins and the Iroquois. We talked about the Iroquois. Edgar Casey said they were the survivors of Atlantis. Um, the Susquehanna River by the natives was called the oldest river on Earth, or the Mother River. Go ahead, jump in.
Jump in. I have to.
Yeah, please.
I got it. Iroquois, Irish,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
who are
Big time.
closest to Atlantean.
And they could speak with the Bass whalers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The Iroquois could, or the
Yes, the Iroquois.
Okay. Wow.
They were trading with the Basque, and when the English got here, they were already had been trading with the Basque for a long time.
God damn. Well, with Iroquois, Casey fingered them as being Atlantean descendants. Iroquois, Ira, Airy, right?
Airy.
And then with the Irish,
And the Rastafarian again connection.
Ooh. The Irish are geographically closest to what Atlantis would have been if it were in the Azores or Canaries or in the British Isles at some point. Because my channel is all about Atlantis, and I want Atlantis to be in Florida, but I know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah.
Not everyone knows what I mean when I say that. There's many dimensions to the whole Atlantis thing. Atlantis, there was different Atlantis periods, and one of those Atlantises was off in the middle of the Atlantic, and before that it was the British Isles, and before that it was Gotland, of course. Gotland, Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
Gothenburg, Gotland.
Helsinki. Yep.
Helsinki, of course.
Helium.
Gothenburg. Because why? This is going to get us to our next question. Sherry. I haven't surfed. I'm not a surfer. I was going to say this earlier. Okay, guys, get ready. I have not taken a shower in a couple months. I shower in the ocean almost every day. And the ocean's all I need. And I smell great. I look great considering I don't shower, right?
Looking good.
And you know, people don't stop me on the street. I don't smell like that. I might not smell like I
You're not
work
wearing patchouli.
in a cologne factory, but you know, you don't have to be dependent on these chemicals, guys. And we'll make another video about that and do it. But as Ben was just showing us, you know, this ocean water will clean you, it'll nurture you, it'll heal you. Not just the ocean water, the spring water, but to bridge that, we were just talking about the North Pole and Atlantis. Where does Rh negative blood come from? I think it's pretty obvious. I think Robert Sepper has done a good job at showing. I don't agree with Robert Sepper on a lot of things. Believe
Same
me.
here.
Robert Sepper is.
He doesn't really like me. We had some back and forth years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we parted
Dang.
ways.
Yeah, he seems to be narrow-minded about some things. Very
Oh yeah, he
narrow-minded.
knows it all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he does great work though. So I don't want to.
Yeah, you know, you got to take it for what it is. He's an academic coming from inside the mainstream who's challenging the mainstream. So, you know, he's fighting his battle, and let's not confuse it with the battle that we're fighting, you know, a lot of the time. So, but I think he's done a great job at showing Rh negative blood does come from the North Pole. It came very recently. It's not one of the oldest types. It came recently with the advent of the white race into the world not too long ago, racially speaking, you know, anthropologically speaking. So that's where Rh negative comes from. Why does the Illuminati like Rh negative blood, or whatever you want to call them, the rulers, the whoever, the elites? Well, probably because the same reason they like water. It's good for them. It gets the job done quick, right? You're thirsty, you need water. You know, they need to build a house, they use a hammer. Are you going to say the hammer is evil? Now, how do you use a blood type? You know, maybe that's not a good comparison. Well, you can use blood types, and they arrange their marriages due to this. And they try and conserve as much of the Rh negative blood as they can, because they want the benefits, you know. So it actually kind of works in their favor to have the most Rh negative blood, and then give other people this superstition about it, to where they'll think it's, oh, that's witchcraft, it's, you know, it's voodoo, it's this or that, it's the Nephilim. You know, Nephilim does not mean what you guys think it means, right? Nephilim is not angels that misbehaved and were cast out, and they're just the Illuminati, right, in business suits. It's not that simple. We'll do a good thing on the Nephites, Mormonism, how they actually landed in Florida, but we'll talk about that.
Oh, we could go real deep. We could work John Dee. We could work.
You were just
Go ahead.
You were just showing us something about Joseph D earlier.
I was.
Yeah, one of the articles you were showing us, the main character, you know, the figure that it was written about. His name was Joseph D.
Interesting. Funny.
But have you personally been to the Radium Springs? I have not. How about you, Ben?
Nope.
Okay.
I live in Oregon, and on the Columbia River, there are two really powerful springs, and both are two of the oldest resorts in the state. I've been to one of them, but I was too young to really appreciate it, or, you know, like try to feel or remember what it was like. But what I can tell you, as someone that had family in Pensacola, I went there quite often. Swimming in the Gulf of Mexico was some of the most best feeling some of my best memories, but some of my best feeling that I can starkly remember of being in the water was being in the Gulf.
It's different. It's weird. The water on the east coast of Florida there's no waves in the Gulf. Number one, there's no waves in the Gulf Coast unless it's a particularly windy
Stormy,
or
windy, yeah.
stormy day. The Gulf is almost always crystal flat. It's very peculiar. It's the largest bay on the Earth. You know, the most contained, largest bay in the world, as far as I'm aware, with a natural breakwater. But the salinity, like you're saying, there's something about the water in the Gulf. The salinity is different.
Mhm.
And when I get out of the ocean here on the east coast of Florida, my hair is crispy, right?
Full
And
of salt.
yeah. When I'm something about the Gulf, there's not, I don't know, it's not as saline. It seems like it may be more saline as far as I know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my hair doesn't get crispy like it does here with the sand in it or salt. The Gulf, it's something special. There's almost like a milkiness to the
I would
water.
agree with the milkiness. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like frothy, but it's not. That sounds dumb, but yeah. It's like crystally. I don't know. It's weird. It is hard to describe because
Yeah.
I've swam more on the Atlantic side,
Yeah.
and that's totally different, 100% different. I used to sail from Georgia down through the Keys, and
Nice.
so I've swam all along that coastline. And once you get to the Keys, it really changes. It does.
Ben, do you think the people behind NIMSA wound up in Antarctica?
Possibly, or they came from Antarctica. Again, I had mentioned earlier, and there's so many people in chat, and guys, thanks for joining in. I asked people to share what they could about the German syndicate. So if anyone wants to jump in and say, if they have anything now, I'll try to pay a little more attention to it. But incredibly, I mean, you can find more about the Illuminati than you can about this German syndicate. And again, they were running all the radium mines, all the radium salt mines everywhere in the world were controlled by these people. And I believe they were connected with NIMSA. You got Trump again. If anyone's delved into the NIMSA stuff, the Trump blimp is very famous. Then you got the connection with Ingersoll. Like I said, they were one of the largest public purchasers of radium in the 1800s, early 1900s. Again, Ingersoll Lockwood wrote a book about time traveling Baron Trump. The NIMSA stuff's crazy. I've posted a lot about ancient tech. I have articles about flying boats, flying blimps. Some were using steam, some were using static electricity, and some were using what was coined apergy. And apergy was using radium and magnetism.
Right. And Astor was obsessed with apergy.
100%. You look up the word apergy in any newspaper, it's almost always going to go back to Astor. And I think, again, I lightly touched on this. I think it is connected to the transformation between the steam age and the different types of power that were being utilized.
Yep.
And the Titanic sinking.
The Coruscants, which you pointed out, thank you. When I made my Coruscant video, I had no idea about the Astor.
How funny. We had just met and you were working on that video. It's like no coincidence. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's not on the Google searches, I guess I'm exposed for not digging deep enough because you knew about this stuff. But it wasn't easy, it wasn't available information. It wasn't.
The connection wasn't Googleable.
Exactly.
That's why I fell in love with the newspapers.
When you search Coruscant, it's like Ford, Edison. Look here,
Yeah.
But they don't say anything about Astor, of course. No. But
I think that's very purposeful, and that was one of the first things you noticed was like, man, I can't find anything on this. Yeah. Astor and who he was up against and what he was involved with. Whether you believe that whole narrative or not, no big deal.
We gotta do a video about Cuba and Astor and how Astor family is related to the Castro family. Castro and Astor, they are the same family, believe it or not.
I would love it.
Descended largely. But let's keep it moving. Radon. How does radon fit into this, and why is radon gas so deadly? That was a question that I skipped over.
Well, for the same purpose that radium's deadly. When you atomize any chemical, inhaling it is always going to be far worse than just having it around. And so you're basically making it so it can enter your lungs and you're breathing it in. And what's the first thing that kills you? It's the lack of oxygen, not water or anything else, food. And that's the fastest way to kill you for sure. Radon, when you look into it, neon, radon, all these things, bioluminescence. This goes back to what we talked about a little bit when we made the connection, when I made the connection with, I'm spacing the movie Avatar, and everything was bioluminescence, and all the things in the ocean that are bioluminescent, that are kind of alien looking.
Florida has some of the most bioluminescent coral.
No coincidence. That's going to be connected to radium and radon and all of these chemicals.
Mostly on the Gulf Coast of the Keys.
Yeah, these UV reactive neon colors that you can't see with the human eye, but are activated with ultraviolet light, sunlight in some cases, or lack of sunlight even.
So for this question, how do we know that Babylon was China? I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard Babylon.
I sent you a link. Maybe he's referring to my link. Remember that link I sent you? That post about the article where they were.
The only thing I can think of is like Scythians who ranged from.
No. I'll refresh your memory.
Okay.
Remember when the author was saying that Finnish was Chinese and Babylonian? We just talked about this a few days ago. That's the author.
Wow.
So he's actually follows me and he's asking me.
Okay.
I would imagine maybe that's the case.
Yes.
So this author, and I haven't shared the whole article, so great question. I shared most of it with Longo. This author, through language, shows that the Babylonian and Chinese language come from the Finnish root. And if you've been watching Longo, I don't really need to go much further. He's done a great job showing the connection between runic, Punic, Finnish, Phoenician, phonetics. These all trace back to a similar source, and this could be the proverbial Babel connection, at least in a timeline. Altland east, the lack of ice, the Gulf Stream being the proverbial conveyor belt between worlds in a frozen land. And I think language has a lot to do with that. A lot of my posts show an ancient world beneath our feet here in America that was predominantly the lands of the Bible. Assyria, Canaan, Babylon. All of the farthest down ruins of Mexico are predominantly the Asiatic phenotype. So I've hypothesized China originated here in America, Central America, but there's Chinese ruins all over America. They found Chinese hieroglyphics on the Pyramid of Cholula, many of the pyramids in Mexico. They found Chinese hieroglyphics in Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and they're on ruins that no one knows about. They've been demolished or taken apart, or the Smithsonian has them under wraps.
Not to mention and to back that up linguistically, the Ottomangian branch of Mesoamerican languages, so that's Ottomangian, has a subfamily called the Chinangian, or China something. It's China. It has the word China in the name, and that's a Mexican language family.
Yeah.
So,
and we've talked on this show that some of the first quote unquote Chinese people brought here building railroads for cheap labor. They could speak and understand ancient Mayan. So we're not talking Spanish or the altered version of Spanish that kind of changed the Mayan tongue. We're talking the true quote, again, I'm using quotations, indigenous Mayan could speak to the Chinese. So understand that. That's an odd one. You can find that the Mayan was written left to right or horizontally. I apologize, and that the Chinese letters were done the same, and they were turned vertical because it was
Mm-hmm.
easier to represent more of the pictogram in the language, because Chinese is very pictographic. You can
Mm-hmm.
see like the story it's very icon. It's like, it's like a
Yeah.
room.
Well, the main difference between runic and punic is the direction of most of the letters.
100%. And we've talked already about Latin and Islam, or sorry, Arabic, and how many languages were either turned, flipped, or inverted, or both,
Mm-hmm.
or all.
Yeah.
So this is the proverbial Babylon, right? And there's plenty of geographical, archaeological evidence. The Aztecs and Mayans have an even clearer ancestral story of the Tower of Babel, and they said it was built in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Karimo, shout out Karimo. He's already done several videos on it. Amazing stuff. So if you want to chase the Babylon, Chinese, Mexico stuff, you can follow me. I posted a little bit on it. You can search Mexico on my channel. You'll find a ton. But yeah, next question.
Does fluoride and Florida have any connection? Yes.
Oh, tell me.
There is natural. So, fluoride is just the last part of that. I don't know, molecule, I guess you would say. It's, if I'm not mistaken, sodium fluoride is what's in our drinking water. That's what's getting added. And that's the no good stuff, sodium fluoride. Am I wrong? Is it calcium fluoride that's the bad one?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I was going to say no, so I'm glad you jumped in there, because obviously it's 90% byproduct of aluminum, and there's no mining really to be found in Florida. So I would have thought no, but
well, in what I was going to say is the natural fluoride. So there's sodium fluoride and calcium fluoride.
Gotcha. Okay.
Calcium fluoride, I believe, is found abundantly in Florida, in the rocks, in the water. It's natural because the water here is so minerally.
Gotcha.
Some say that Florida people is too minerally, and that's why they don't sell it in like grocery stores, because it has too many minerals. Some would advise against. But what was I talking about?
Your fluoride.
Okay.
In Florida.
So, I mean, aside from the name, I can't point to a specific correlation. But I've always wanted to name a podcast or a show or something. Let's get fluoridated, or they're putting Florida in the water or something like that. Florida in the water. But let's see what else we got. Turmeric can tell.
Oh, I love it.
It's not a question.
That's kind of what that's kind of what we were talking about a little bit with the color.
Yeah, it's like a pH test.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you noticed similar effects, similar to like what we talked about with blood, and it not wanting to coagulate or blend, just like spring water and ocean water. You see, that they tend to want to stay separated. And there's obviously some magnetism at play there.
This one's not in caps, but that's okay. GG. Does sulfur smell like a devil? Why? Well, I can tell you that devils smell like sulfur. So we're typically told, the folklore is that devils, demons, negative entities smell like sulfur. And that's kind of been that was said back in medieval times, and even far back beyond medieval times, that sulfur goes along with,
There'd be bad spirits around when they could
demonic
smell sulfur. Yeah, absolutely.
But you could look at that the other way and say all bad smells inherently have some type of bad energy that goes along with them.
100%.
Yeah. So, my favorite Alex Jones quote ever is when he said he was in close proximity to Hillary Clinton or something, or he knew someone was was in close proximity to Hillary Clinton, and they swore that she smells like sulfur. I thought that was hilarious.
Wow,
But
that's
but
great. Yeah, because
yeah.
I've heard the same thing. Not only the sulfur, but the temperature of the air changes, and things become kind of magnetically charged. You know, your hair will stand up. Those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I agree with you with smell. Smell is some kind of magnetism.
Well, you know, they say brimstone is sulfur, right? It's like leftover.
Yeah.
Right. It's like molten sulfur, essentially. Brimstone. And that's what God's smited, you know, the evil people with. So they go hand in hand. Sulfur is also ruled by Saturn, astrologically, of course. All foul smells are ruled by Saturn in general.
Yeah, and the moon has a lot to do with that as well. You know, we talked a little bit about what does the light of the moon do? You know, it breaks things down and causes putrefaction.
Yes, it promotes decay. You're
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
If you have a wound,
yeah, you want it in the sun, not in the moonlight.
Do not leave your wound out in moonlight, because moonlight, which is good, because some things you want to decay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you want the soil to be in a constant state of decomposition, right? So you want some things to be reaping the benefits of moonlight, but wounds you don't want in moonlight, right? Wound and moon are kind of the same word, believe it or not. You can flip that
Yeah.
W, just like matter and water.
Yeah,
water, matter, wound and moon. And you know why are women women? It's because they're wounded men. They're wounded, and you might say, well, I thought they were womb men. Womb men. Well, womb men is God damn it. Womb men is what they called they called the womb a wound. They used to call the womb.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
yeah.
womb is the same word as wound, believe it or not. Same word, because it was a bloody gash.
Yeah, yeah.
So the wound was called a wound. But blah blah blah.
Great connection. I hadn't made that before. Yeah, the Vesica Pisces and Jesus too. That's great.
I think you guys ran out of questions.
Yeah, looks like it.
Someone wants to know how you get the salt out of your hair.
What did you say?
Someone really wants to know how you get the salt out of your hair.
How to get the salt out of your hair?
Out of your hair, because you said you shower on the ocean.
Oh yeah. So I shower. Someone asked this question. I don't see it, but how do you get the salt out of your hair if you shower in the ocean? Well, it's not as big of a problem as you think. But you just rinse your hair. They have showers at the beach. I'll go like 3 days with I'll just leave the salt in my hair. And I have people tell me my hair looks great. And it's filled with beach salt that other people would say they hate, and that is terrible. Also, my hair grows like crazy the more ocean water I have. So if you're fighting, if anyone out there is fighting hair loss, ocean water will make your hair fucking jump out of your head. It's crazy.
The salt for sure. Because people underestimate how important salt is in hydration, right? And
salt is life.
Yeah, and salt is, and hydration, and because I mean dehydration, you know, and so it makes total sense to me. You're getting water and salt and sunlight. You know, for a guy who lives in a van having the ocean to bathe in, I wouldn't recommend it to someone who can't just go jump in the ocean. Yeah, especially the Gulf.
No, yes, I have easy access. So if I'm dirty, I can just go jump in whenever I want. So I don't. But yeah. Do you think Edward Bach was a good man, bad man? Any sacrifices held on those grounds? You know, I think a lot of times people get caught up with, I'm not a, the viewer might be thinking, I'm not a millionaire that can build a garden whenever I want to. Therefore, no one is a millionaire that can build a garden whenever they want to. And of course, the siren's going by. You know, I've talked about the theories I've had with his ladies' home journal and who ended up being on the cover of that ladies' home journal, Ellen DeGeneres, and it's pretty much like a, celeb 101 mainstream Hollywood magazine type thing. But basically, I don't know, never met the guy. I think if he did create that whole garden and tower by himself just for fun and, truly did do it, I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's bad, as far as the Seminole history and, who those lands originally belonged to. That's another story. Did he steal it from someone? Is that tower actually created when it was? If everything on there was hijacked, then of course he's not the greatest of people. But, some of these people, I think, just find themselves in unique situations where they're going to a state where nothing has been tapped into, nothing's been, it's like the Wild West, anthropologically, archaeologically, it was like the Wild West in so many ways, Florida. It was like the final frontier. I think a lot of these people, I would not place Bach in the same category as Flagler. I'll just put it that way. Flagler was like a textbook robber baron. I'm coming to rewrite history and make everything I see, I'm going to name it after myself, and except for Miami, which he named Miami. Bach is not like that. I think Bach did love nature, loved birds, loved beauty, harmony, stuff like that. I don't see him taking away from humanity in many instances, not that I have seen.
Yeah, Flagler didn't build anything beautiful. He just took it over. And I think that tower is incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's all conjecture, right? But we've talked about what's built on the highest point of Georgia.
What is the Guidestones?
Correct.
Was it one of the highest points?
Yeah, the highest.
Really?
Which is a county outside of my family.
Oh,
so
wow.
I've visited there many times. My grandfather didn't see any interest in it, but the sweetheart that he was, he found the place where they had gotten the marble and got me a piece of it. And I still have it here. So I have a piece from the same quarry.
Wow.
But
was it the Tate marble quarry?
I can't remember the name of it. He didn't tell me.
But
he traced it down. And marble, and my love for biogeology, marble is pretty amazing stuff. And it's
so fine.
Yeah.
The grit on marble, it's made of powder almost.
Yeah.
Not in many instances, not always, but
and some of the best marble existed on Gotland.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, funny, but it didn't come from there.
E. Calloway talks about the Tate marble.
Well, now I gotta look it up.
Quarry in Georgia, how that's one of the biggest marble quarries.
It's got to be, because Georgia's known for its marble, so I'd imagine it's the same place.
If the Georgia Guidestones were made of the biblical marble that E. Calloway said was in Tate or in Georgia, that would be amazing. That would be pretty crazy.
And so what I was getting at was, my fascination with, the Ben Stone and Lodestones and religious worship and all of these things, Mecca stones, pilgrimages, blah, blah, blah. Often temples were built on the highest part of any place because it's like an antenna, right? Naturally, energy is going to be exiting from the tallest point. you study anything electrical
Yeah.
wise, that's a given.
Heat.
So when you
friction.
want to,
Yeah.
and we talked about the symbology of the tree. We've also talked about people doing things not necessarily because they have some life-driven goal to do it, but because they just feel a need to do it, right? So Bach could have easily fallen into this category, and he was drawn there. Those are his words, right? He was drawn there. It was like the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen in his life. And of course, Iron Mountain, right? You're on mute,
That's
right? So it's like a tree. He's rebuilding that tree. The same
Mhm.
symbology we talked about with the cypress tree being planted on the mounds. These
He's
mounds didn't just have trees randomly growing. This is the same symbol as the pagoda. And you
He's a
brought up
zombie.
Japan already in this. The pagoda is incredibly interesting. It was built, as they said their own words, it was the symbolic tree of life, and they put it on top of their emperors and kings. And I think the Bach Tower was a similar type of thing.
Mhm.
And it's, the Iron Mountain, right? There's Iron Mountains in every state, and
Mhm.
some are man-made. There were states building mountains to quote harvest atmospheric energy.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and
in
Florida's.
Florida, as you know,
Mhm.
high ground in Florida is hard to come by.
Yeah.
So to think that there's anything coincidental with the Bach Tower and why he did it, I don't think so at all. The story that the tower tells, if you didn't have a conspiracy mindset or anything, and you just went there completely clear conscience, clear heart, you would just love it.
That's a
And I
good
think it's
point.
important to kind of turn those things off when you're in a place of beauty, you know? Like you just got to trust your gut sometimes, and you can feel when things are evil or bad or yucky or whatever, and you just got to trust your intuition. I've never been there. I look forward to visiting it with you someday. But
Mhm.
just by studying the grounds and the art and the structure, for me, it's not a negative thing. I think you would probably agree.
I do. I think people confuse occultist with evil. Not every occultist.
Agreed.
Not everyone who hides, and hides not even the best word. Not
Everyone in
everyone,
this chat is an occultist.
and not everyone that conceals, every facet of what they've created is evil. People are allowed to have secrets. Leonardo da Vinci had some secrets in his process technique, regardless of old world, new world, whatever. Dali had some secrets that he's not gonna let everyone in on, right? So I allow people some
Give, yeah.
yeah, I allow people's secrecy, privacy, and a little bit of mystique, right? So, but with the Ladies' Home Journal, that was pretty sketchy.
But I also, you mentioned this
publication.
once before we move on from that journal.
Mhm.
I wrote a lot in the past, and when I was doing some Radio Tartary interviews years ago on Radio Tartary, if anyone ever watched that in here, shout out, 2 and 3 years ago almost now. We did several episodes on cryptid communication, and that Genghis Khan had to rely on using art and music and poetry to conceal messages. And I think that you touched on this a little bit before. You mentioned it, that there were secret messages hidden in the journal. And I found that very interesting. I think that could definitely be possible. It was out of his wheelhouse. You're on mute again.
Sorry, not a question, but good topic. Good comments.
Ooh, great
Florida
comment. Wow.
Florida well water. So I haven't looked into this. I can't substantiate this as far as well water versus just regular aquifer water. I don't know if there is a difference in Florida, if there even is like just standard well water. But basically, Florida well water has an enormous amount of iron in it. I don't doubt that. I believe that sounds like it would be true to me.
Absolutely. It's, iron is magnetism, right?
Did you ever see the video of the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean separation? You'd have to be a little more specific. Are you talking
Yeah.
about like when they open the Panama Canal and like the oceans meet? There's like a change. I think there's like a borderline between two types of water where they meet. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. But
Yeah, because I mean, I've seen the videos of the Amazon meeting the Pacific or the Atlantic, and it's quite amazing. I mean, they don't even mix; they just literally are oil and water. But yeah, man, that canal, that could be a whole episode on just the history of the Panama Canal. No, you're on mute again.
sorry, thank you.
This is a perfect question for you. I'll let you take this.
Okay. Do you believe in legitimate flat Earth theory? And if so, could you explain what you think the planets, aka wandering stars, are compared to the stars? Well, you know, for the most part, they're brighter than the stars. They're a little bit bigger if you pay attention. For the most part. There's 5 planets. There's two luminaries. Lamps. 2 luminaries. 5 planets. Okay. Then they're right here in your anatomy. Here's the 5 planets. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, fuck you, Satan, right? Jupiter, point the way, philosophy. Plato's always like this. Jesus is always like this or that, right? This is Venus. Oh, I love you. I do. Right? This is the Venus finger. This is the Mercury finger. Intelligence. But with the 2 luminaries, that's different. So sun, moon, those are in a different category, of course. And the sun and the moon are right here in your palms. These are the sun and the moon, the palms. Because palm is an anagram for lamp. And there's only 2 lamps in the sky, sun and the moon. So right side is the sun, left side is the moon. But so those 5 planets, how do those 5 differ from the stars? Well, I mean, they move, number one. They're the wandering stars. They're thicker. They typically have a stronger tint to them, a color spectrum. They dance almost everything. Planets and stars both dance between different colors. So they'll be white, blue, yellow, but they typically hover around one color, like Mars being pretty reddish or yellowish or orangish, for example. Sirius is pretty white and blue, bluish, whitish. How do they differ, astronomically? They're pretty much the same. They're pulsations of light. They're sonoluminescence. The only difference is, the significant difference is the fact that they move. Now, if you want to say astrologically, how do they differ? They differ immensely. They are the ones doing things, whereas the fixed stars are receiving influence most of the time, or the sign that the constellation rules is receiving influence. So I like to say nothing happens without the planets. The planets are the gods. They make things happen. So astrologically, they couldn't be more different than the fixed stars. They'll never be in the same spot. The fixed stars are always in the same place. And when a fixed star moves, it does so with every single other star at the same time, in tandem. So, as far as flat Earth theory, yeah, I'm a flat earther. I'm a hardcore flat earther. Not a sheet of paper. If you're a flat earther and you think we live on a sheet of paper and there's space underneath the flat Earth, you're officially retarded. There's no such thing as a floating flat Earth in space. So the flat Earth model and the space model do not go together. And the only people you see putting those together are the fake Flat Earth Society, right? That is kind of a troll on Flat Earth. Flat Earth is also not the most important part about Flat Earth. What is most important is geocentrism. So geocentrism, we are the
Centaur.
center. We are the center of everything. There's no going anywhere else. There's no viewing life from a different perspective. This is the perspective God made for himself to experience through our eyes. And the North Pole is the dead center, and everything is fixed around that pinhole, that pinwheel, that axis. So all the stars move around the North Pole in synchronicity, in sync, except the 5 wandering stars. So you have 5 wandering stars, sun and moon, that equals 7 planets. That's your 7 chakras, 7 colors, blah, blah, blah.
The rainbow. And if
The
anyone
rainbow.
studied the geometric patterns that the wandering stars draw on the heavens, it's incredible.
And the frequencies that they lap each other from our perspective in musical proportions,
The
ratios.
octaves are related.
Exactly. Planetary, like who said it? The music of the spheres. Pythagoras? Was it Pythagoras who said he could hear?
Who coined the term? I have no idea, but I believe he said it.
He said he could hear. Not only was he aware of the musical spheres, the music of the spheres. And when we say spheres, we're talking about stars, because they look like they're balls, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't live on a ball, but up there they're round. So round doesn't mean sphere, but it does mean round, and they're pulsing. It's the best way to describe it is like the Jimmy Neutron molecule, where it's
it looks like Saturn, but with
it's a spinning mass of energy. It's spinning, pulsating, blinking, singing without sound. Sonoluminescence, singing into light, right? Sound made into light. And that's what the stars are. So they're singing and they're shining. That's how they influence the earth. But another question. We're on that one for too long. Any theory on why people are so crazy? Or is it just the media? It's probably just the media. The Bermuda Triangle has an effect on people's consciousness. The Bermuda Triangle, the ley lines, whatever you want to blame it on, there's something, and it's especially dense in the southern tip of Florida. You don't typically get those crazy Floridians up near Georgia. Now, I'm generalizing, and I'm sure there are, but it's typically peninsular Florida where you get the Florida man stereotype.
it's
Really.
just like that in the Yucatan. And this is kind of like what we talked about with the bridge. Like, think of it like electromagnetism. That's the arc, right? So the energy is flowing the strongest there.
It is
from peninsular Florida to peninsular Yucatan, right?
And what's a peninsula? It's a phallic.
Convergence.
It's
Yeah.
a phallic.
The tip, just the tip, guys.
where things are coming to a head.
Exactly.
And things are,
like a spear.
It's the spear point. Yeah. So here's can you read this article? And we'll do 1 or 2 more after this, and then we'll wind up, guys. We're at 2.5 hours right now. 420.
Shout out everyone joining in. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah. Good chat as always. Sorry, couldn't get to all the questions, but you see this one right here? I was going to send you something on this earlier.
You share your screen.
Oh, you can't see it's just the comment. You can see.
Oh, okay. My bad. Sorry. Yeah,
That's all right. The pinned comment.
Got it.
I was going to send you something earlier today on Cornwall. What state has a Cornwall? Probably a couple of states. But in the United Kingdom, of course, as this comment says, but there's a couple states in America that have Cornwalls. Now, when you hear the word Cornwall analog, what do you think of? Because when I hear Cornwall, on a chat with you, I think of the big ass fucking wall that went up and down Mississippi and Arkansas and Texas, and the Great Wall of the Gulf, the Great Wall of America, whatever you want to call it.
The Atlantean wall. It's Atlantean.
Atlantean.
It's built
And
up. It comprises elements that they didn't even know existed. This wall. It's 100% a device. I've talked about this before, that I thought these walls were created to keep out giant monsters. That not only did they serve as breakwaters, I believe the walls kept out maybe a river, or the water levels were higher. But I believe they were also electrified, kind of like Jurassic Park style. And they were built to keep out sea monsters and giant. You can only imagine. Edgar Casey talks about this. He says that the biggest rival to Atlantis were the giant monsters. The Atlanteans were at war with sea serpents that were 400 feet long, animals that flew in the air that were 200 feet, dragons. America is the land of the Drake.
Now, for people who might roll their eyes at sea serpents or monsters, I will have you know, listeners, that they just discovered, like within the last 5-10 years, they just discovered an entire species of whale that only lives in the Gulf of Mexico that they did not know existed before. They only found out because a dead one washed up on Florida. If that guy didn't wash up, they would still not know that type of whale existed. And how many fishermen, how many boats, helicopters, ecological study teams are out in the Gulf of Mexico, and you're telling me a 30, 20-foot whale goes unnoticed, undocumented, you guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It can happen.
Mm-hmm.
It can happen.
Yeah, and again, I've read enough of these articles now, and I'm not trying to tell anyone or prove anything to anybody. This is just conjecture. But at this point, I've clipped probably 1,000 giant sea creature articles, and they are mind blowing.
I've got a bunch in Florida.
Yeah, there's a ton in the Gulf.
Just haven't posted them yet.
There was a gentleman interviewed on Coast to Coast. This is like 15 years ago or something, when I was listening to Coast to Coast. And he was a diver for oil rigs, right? Those guys that go way down, way down. He was a welder. And he said that amongst all those guys, they said that there was the craziest shit that a sci-fi movie could dream up down there. And it was commonly talked about. He told the story of just the weirdest shit you've ever seen. Octopuses that were like hybrids that, again, a lot of the octopuses did have bioluminescence, but he said that it was, sci-fi stuff. And that a lot of these companies had hard times keeping people because they'd see some crazy shit or something bad would happen. And they'd interact with these animals in some kind of weird way. But yeah.
People who, even dinosaur deniers, have to come to terms with the fact that megalodon teeth exist, guys. So some people might say, I'm a dinosaur denier. I don't believe in dinosaurs the way they teach it to us.
The way they teach it to us is totally bullshit. But there were absolutely giant creatures,
and that's 100%. probably the role that dinosaurs fulfill, is covering up.
Exactly.
They're the blanket that covers up anything that enters
and the timeline.
Enters the monster category.
And the timeline.
It's a dinosaur.
Millions of years, dinosaur. So
in the Florida Springs, we find megalodon teeth. They are so abundant that, to find them on this scale, there were as many megalodons as there are sharks in the ocean, or great white sharks in the ocean right now. There were as many megalodons. Megalodon is not fake. There's no faking megalodon. In order for megalodon to be fake, and I know I'm only arguing with like two hypothetical people here. If Megalodon is fake, they would have had to have put these fake teeth that were made in God knows where, in such nooks and crannies in all these Florida springs for people to be found. Dinosaur bones are found, dug for intentionally in $1 million dig sites by people who are looking for them purposefully. Megalodon teeth are found by kids playing in Florida Springs. Dads, grandmas, people kick them and pick them up, see them, you know. Even mammoth bones like that too. And we had, you know, what are we looking at? I'm going to let you talk about what you just pulled up. But what is that thing that we're looking at? Well, how different is that thing really from what we're told is a giant sloth, which was stood on 2 feet much of the time, and may have eaten more than what sloths eat today. And those were all over Florida, all over. The bones are so prevalent here. That's not a dinosaur. That's a extinct animal that we know walked alongside men in Florida only a couple thousand years ago. You had mammoth in Florida, mastodon, only 6,000 BC, you know?
Yep.
What are we looking at?
But yeah, I mean, that's one of my specialties. Shout out Stellium7, a good friend of mine. I've been on his channel. He has, you know, he lives in Spain, and there's a mountain in his backyard called Mount Go, which he has shown unbelievable evidence that it's a gigantic mammoth elephant. It's huge, miles long. It's a whole mountain range. And he has an education in all of these things, and he has amazing videos proving beyond, you know, reasonable suspicion that this is the case. I'm a big biogeology guy. You know, I think there were creatures miles long. If there were trees as big as me and you have talked about, there were creatures unbelievably large among them. This is an article about a hunting party going after what they call the Keratosaurus, a monster from the Jurassic period, also known under the name of the Partridge, sorry. And this creature would cross the Bering Strait. The Russians had a story and depicted the exact same creature. It lived in a cave system underground, and it had been seen several times. But in this article, the Duke of Westminster, who was a big game hunter, just like you know who, your boy Roosevelt, traveled the world hunting crazy exotic animals. This was a big thing amongst the rich. There's a lot of books out there about it. There's a lot of stories. He got on a boat and was coming to hunt this thing. Okay, that's how widely known it was. In this image, these hunters were led by the natives in the area, and this is what they saw. They saw it coming over an icy glacier with a caribou in its mouth. They estimated the caribou to be 600 to 800 pounds. And this wasn't the only time they saw this creature. They saw it several times. The natives knew about it. And like I said, there were stories of it going all the way across the Aleutian Islands. When the ice was completely frozen, it could cross. The Inuit of the Russian side, I can't remember their name, they told the same story, that it lived underground and that it hibernated for years at a time sometimes, and that it came out during the coldest periods when it could cross the ice. And it was covered in hair. And it was like, this article is like a Jurassic Park movie. They describe coming upon its excrement and it being this giant steaming pile as big as a car, essentially, huge. And that it laid down in the snow and it left a 40-foot long imprint that was several feet deep. I mean, this thing was gigantic. This article goes into great description. I'll just do a quick synopsis real quick. Giant saurian of the Arctic emerges, as big as 10 elephants, passed like a hurricane across the frozen river, smashing thick blocks of ice into the air, bristled hair, immense red eyes, 700-pound caribou in its mouth. To kill it, explosive shells would be needed. The Duke of Westminster certainly believed in the monster. Photograph taken as it kicked avalanche of rocks close to their heads. A male moose let out a bellow. Off they went at speed, fresh in the mud, print of a gigantic body. The belly made a gully 4 feet deep, 50 feet long, 20 feet wide. Blah, 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 blah. You can find this on my page. Just search Prehistoric Beast. You can search Monster, Prehistoric Beast. I got dozens like this. But yeah.
Did you catch when we had Mark Muncy on, the Florida author, he talked about a giant turtle.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He talked about 2 instances of giant turtles.
I have giant turtles, tons of them.
Oh, we gotta corroborate those.
Nothing that was living, but their shells were absolutely gigantic.
The one that he had was that he featured was a sighting, or I think it was radar or like sonar. They caught it on sonar because it was so goddamn
it was
big.
living, correct?
Yeah, it was swimming, and the military saw it and logged it as, this is what we saw. It was a 30 plus foot giant loggerhead sea turtle.
Yeah, unfortunately, this one doesn't have size, but this is Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Huge petrified sea turtles.
Jesus.
9-foot turtle here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have a few other ones, but Twitter search is so broken, unfortunately. But yeah, I've got a bunch. The Chinese had there was a palace in China that they would, right outside the entrance. They had 2 petrified turtle shells. They were both over 10 feet. But yeah, so yeah, do you want to do a few more questions or?
We'll do one more.
One more. All right. Yeah, and for those that are listening, I just finished part 7 with Karimo a few days ago.
Oh,
so if you want more, check him out. Karimo YouTube. I've done seven videos so far with him. They're all fantastic. And then early tomorrow morning, I'll be doing a video with Paul covering what lies beneath. Paul Cook. So shout out him.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be connecting with Paul Cook for the first time.
Perfect. Yeah, he messaged me during the Karimo live.
Nice.
And we've hit it off. So we're doing a video tomorrow morning, nice and early, midday for him.
Nice.
So check that out. Probably too early for most people in the U.S., but
you gonna put this on your YouTube channel?
I mean, when I get around to
it. you're just gonna have to give probably gonna have to give me your password to your YouTube channel, and just let me throw everything up on your YouTube channel.
I'm just gonna have like thousands of people before I even have a video up. It's kind of sad, but yeah, I mean, I'm lucky to get this time with you, so I'm grateful for that. But putting together videos and uploading stuff, I just don't have time right now. But yeah, I want to. I mean, once I have all of these videos with other people, I gotta start putting it together. But yeah.
So, are you left-handed, Ben?
No.
I am not either. I am right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I play an instrument. I play a couple instruments, and that engages the other hand. But no. Right-handed.
No. Yep. Right-handed. Yeah, a lot of left brain going on. But I keep the right active.
Here's a good one. Okay, here, we'll finish with this. We'll finish with this, guys. Okay, and I'm going to put it up, and everyone will do this. And we'll hear everyone's take on it. Okay, Ben. I'm going to share my screen, and I want your... Don't think... When you see the colors, just tell me what colors you're looking at. Okay?
Okay.
All right. This one. Don't look at shit. There's too many. Okay, here we go. This is unadulterated. The original. What color is that dress, Ben?
You mean all the colors, or
Just
gold and white,
Oh my god.
or gold and purple?
Oh my god. Oh man.
What
Yeah,
am I a retard now? Or
Well,
something?
no, but you are left brain predominant.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I mean, I live. I think I make home in my right brain, but
yeah.
Yeah.
The blue and black. This is just what I've heard. I'm sure a bunch of people are going to disagree with that. The whole dress conundrum debate. Left brain, right brain. In some sense,
yeah,
it's
I've done a
not.
lot of those tests for sure.
So if you see white and gold, and this kind of holds true for the people that I know to be left brain, they see white and gold, white and yellow. Blue and black, I see blue and black, tends to be right brain. That's what I've seen.
The white looks more blue or purple to me,
Okay.
but the gold is gold for sure.
Okay. I'm not seeing any gold.
Yeah.
I see blue and black.
Yeah, I see like gold and purple, to be honest, more than white. But
Okay, let me ask the chat. What do you guys see predominantly? And then we'll end after that.
But yeah, I'm a lover of the left brain, right brain stuff. I spent a lot of time studying that. A lot of time. All of my tattoos are based on left brain, right brain.
Color one side.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm left-handed and I see it blue and black. So yeah, put your hand and the color you see in. So my girlfriend's left-handed and she sees blue and black.
This is so interesting. It's fascinating.
Yeah, people think it's like an arbitrary, just like, oh, and then they just go back to their day. That perplexes me so much. How do people see this? And I am not just going to accept like it's a optical illusion as a simple, answer. It has to be deeper than that.
You went mute. You got muted again.
We're almost at 3 hours. Let's wind it down.
Yeah.
Guys, go check out Analog Ben from Waking Up with Analog at 1_analog_9.
Mhm.
That's YouTube and Twitter.
And Instagram.
And it's sorry, not YouTube, but yes, YouTube also. Twitter and Instagram. Feel free to go subscribe to him on YouTube. I don't think there's anything up yet, but can't hurt. Go be there waiting for when the day comes. You know where to find him by now, most of you. He's a regular at this point. But thanks for coming on, Ben. Great stuff as always.
Happy to be here. Yeah, I love our talks.
Awesome.
Yeah, and interview with Paul Cook is tomorrow morning, so it's going to be live. 4 a.m.
4
7 a.m. Eastern.
7 a.m. Eastern time.
Correct.
All right, that's not that bad.
So check that out if you're up. If not, of course, you'll be able to watch it after it's live. Should be really good. It's my first time with him, and I think it's his first time doing a live collab on his channel because we were trying to work out the bugs. Yeah, so check that out. And like I said, 7-part series with Karimo. I mean, it's like 10 hours of video now.
Yeah, good. It's great stuff.
Great stuff.
Dense.
Yeah, if you like this, you like that. And just check out all of his other videos too. I mean, his catalog is incredibly deep, and there'll be something that interests you. If you like Longo, if you like this type of study, there'll be some series for you that he does that's fantastic. So
the American cheetah video. That was good stuff too.
His animal videos are fantastic. showing the ancestral records all pointing back to here.
Mhm.
But yeah, thanks again. Amazing chat as always. How many people do we have in here tonight?
We're winding down. just went under 400.
But yeah,
But
thanks
All right.
guys for all your great questions.
yeah, just stay in the room. You and I will chat for a little sec after.
You got it.
But what's up, Tone Avi?
And late as usual.
I don't know how to pronounce that yet. Hopefully, I'm close. Tone Avi.
Check out his channel as well.
Check
Lots of
out
good work there.
Tone Avi, guys. Tone Avi. I don't know why he made his channel with the wingdings. It's almost impossible to find his channel if you want to find it.
That's true.
Without clicking on his name. So
yeah,
might get some more subs if you put just the first letter T, so because people can search it. I don't know. But
no
whatever.
wingdings.
Wingdings are hard to search if you don't have your name already in front of you. But blah blah blah. All right, guys. Everyone have a good night. Thanks for coming on, and we'll do it again soon.
Good night, everybody.
Night night.